and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can also find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram. And that sound effect that you just heard comes from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at? Where Brooklyn at?
Artist extraordinaire, agent _70. Also, if you check his Instagram and check out his Inktober stuff.
Yep. Please follow me there. I'm about halfway through, and I am on time with today's entry as well.
Yes, I know. He's sometimes has not necessarily struggled with that, but has kind of worried about it in the past.
Of course, it's not easy to keep up with those, one thing a day challenges. That's tough.
Yeah,
especially something creative like that. You got to come up with, with something and time to draw it too.
Absolutely. So, shout out to everybody doing Inktober and Blacktober and all that kind of good.
Exactly.
Good
There's
stuff.
all sorts of different variations. So, yeah, shout out to all of you artists and people who are participating in one of those challenges.
But you can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network, that's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find this podcast on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or the so-called Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. Kind of funny. You can tell how tired I am by how much I stumble through the beginning of this, but that's a little behind the scenes. You can also, well, actually, that's pretty much it, because I was about to say I get to the particulars of the live stuff, which is, hey, we're on Twitch right now, and also YouTube at youtube.com/theclicknation. That's DKLIQNATION, where we record every week. So, hello to everybody in both of those places. But as we do, as I'm doing some checks and more checks, we're going to get started with some books. And we're going to start off with Amazing Spider-Man number 50.
Right, so we are coming right on the heels of the big anniversary issue number 850. This is technically legacy numbering issue number 851, but it is number 50 of the current run.
Indeed, and we get the... Actually, I totally forgot that this thing has been going on for quite a while, for a couple of years.
What, 50 issues?
I'm just saying a couple of years.
Right.
But absolutely.
Right, they have been double shipping, so it has been a couple of years. If I'm not mistaken, they have double shipped this book. No,
that is. I know they've been definitely doing it for the bulk of this year, if I'm not mistaken.
So,
but I don't know if it was like,
or maybe the bulk of last year. So, but because obviously COVID and all that this year. But
right.
I think they did do some double shipping. So I think it's been 2+ years. I'd have to take a look real quick to see exactly when Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man run started, but it started with the mystery of who Kindred was. And guess what we find out, ladies and gentlemen?
Yep.
We find out in this issue who Kindred is. And I'm going to ring the spoiler bell. We probably won't drop who it is, but just in case we do, I'm warning you in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, I would probably still let that be. Although I will say that the folks who got it right got it right.
I got it right.
In fact, so if we go back to last week's show, in our discussion of it, because was that during the show when we talked? I think it was during the show when you had asked me about who I thought it was, and I didn't have much of an idea, but yeah, you were Yeah, you were pretty much spot on. Like, as I was saying before we started this program tonight, even going into reading this thing, this issue, kind of had me re-examining some thoughts from last weekend and just in general. Because I wasn't really thinking about who it was at all. Because it was like, well, even if it was somebody from this past, I'm like, okay, this ought to be something I didn't want to spoil. So I didn't read the article. The articles that have been like, well, who's the speculation? Who it could be, that kind of stuff. And I think you had read, or at least you had seen. I don't know if you read any of them, but
I did see the headline.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to avoid going to and shout out to at TimDog98 who obviously puts out a lot of content for comic book resources. He put something important out today for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
That we'll probably talk about later. But I did see a headline that hit across I believe it was my Facebook feed sometime Wednesday that said, "Oh, the identity of Kindred is blank," and I was like, "I'm not clicking on that. You're not getting me that way."
And normally I would because I'm doing sometimes I would because I'm doing the news and sometimes it can happen. But in this case, I was like, I'm gonna slide past that one because I know it's out right now.
Right.
Or no, those type of articles are out right now, but I didn't even think to do it. In fact, I will probably look up what Tim put up while we're doing this. If I don't already have it, I'm not sure if I do.
Oh, you mean about today's?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was about to say it's pretty standard stuff, especially if you got the DC Nation announcement.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do have some of that, and I'm not sure if I kind of pulled from Newsround, and I think I might have pulled from Tim also. But anyway, regardless, we'll get to that later. So yeah, the identity is known. It's definitely a person. Oh, okay, nice.
Oh no.
Speaking of Tim, wow, that's kind of that happens.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah, but sorry, we got some little back channel talk going on here. But yeah, definitely finding out who it was, and I know there was an article I saw earlier saying like, yeah, that was kind of anticlimactic, and I could kind of see where that was going, but at the same time, like, I was kind of actually still shocked by it because, like I said, that was the whole reason for me not to actually, see any reveals, and I was actually, for some strange reason, I felt like they weren't even going to do a real reveal in this issue, but I guess it makes sense for them to do that because they're trying to turn the corner and get into the rest of the story.
Right.
So,
I got a kick out of the fact that this is another, extra sized, more expensive issue.
Exactly.
It's like back to back, man.
Right. I was like, wow. It just because, yeah, as a matter of fact, that was the first thing I did. I was like, let's see how many pages this was. I'm like, okay. Let's let their. Which you kind of figured they were going to do because I feel like there's probably been more little exercise issues than we know of. Because they're trying to pack a lot into this and even going the length as they're doing with this story.
Right, they're putting on these .1 issues as well for this.
Oh, we will definitely get to that because yeah,
that's coming up.
Yeah, I have talked about. We've talked about that in the past. It's like, yeah, it's been good with the first couple of times I do it. Now it's getting to be a little bit much.
Well, what's funny about it is that the ramifications of what happens in this issue lead directly into those .1, .2 issues because what happens in this issue is that the Sin Eater basically completes his little side mission, right? In a sense, it's a side mission because we know that he is obeying he's following the direction of Kindred. So the Sin Eater is basically does his little side mission.
Well,
but Kindred has.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Kindred has his greater objective.
I was gonna say no. He just outlived his usefulness.
That too.
Yeah.
But in a sense, he has his little side mission. He's the minion in this case.
Right.
And my notes basically said that the Sin Eater was played like the pawn he was, like President Bartlett beating everyone at chess in Hartsfield's Landing. Bear in mind, the West Wing reunion to benefit When We All Vote is streaming on HBO Max. We are not getting paid for this plug. I'm just a West Wing fan. It is streaming on HBO Max as of today, October 15th, when we record this. So when you listen to this, it will have been on HBO Max for a few days.
Yeah.
If you catch this on podcast, that is. If you're watching us live, thank you. And when we're done, feel free to turn on HBO Max if you have it, because I know a lot of people still don't.
Or if you have other ways around it.
Exactly.
Channel. But yes, so this issue was pretty much went to, kind of wrapped up one channel and, one chapter and is starting another one, which at the end of this we found out to be is going to be called Last Rites.
Mhm.
And of course we found the identity of who Kindred is, which, um, I don't want to say the name is on the nose, and because it's kind of not. And that's what actually another thing that was kind of making me think about stuff, because like, well, the whole thing about Sin Eater, what he does or who he digs up in this particular issue, and all the past stuff with Sin Eater. I was like, well, somebody had to be related to some side of that, but I still wasn't thinking that person.
Mhm.
Because I was thinking, I was like, well, maybe it's a person directly affected by someone from Senior's past who's pulling the strings, and it's got a long play for Spidey or something like that. Could have been another clone of Gwen Stacy for all we knew.
Right.
that was long thought dead. But that being said, it was still enough. It was like, okay, this makes total sense, and I probably should have picked it up a lot. And I'm pretty sure if we go back and read it, it's probably worse clues to kind of pick up who it was.
Right.
Right. Even though it seems like, well, okay, this seems obvious now, but you can, but it's really wasn't, because we hadn't seen this character in a good bit.
Right. I was going to say, just to follow up on what the Sin Eater's actions were and what he was actually doing, it turns out there are more ramifications of that. So for people who have been following the story, the Sin Eater was essentially cleansing, but also taking. And when I say taking, it was taking powers as well as personalities. And something is, there's a direct ramification of those actions upon the Order of the Web, the Spider Friends, aka the Spiders of the 616, aka, as I said, the Order of the Web. Something happens to them as a result of that, and this story is kind of told in a weird flashback, but we also get the fact that Spidey realizes that he's in over his head, and he turns to a certain Sorcerer Supreme for help.
Who's has helped Spidey with things in the past, and especially one likely to be forgotten storyline. Well, technically, I wasn't him that did that, but he was in that.
Right.
But that being said, yeah. So Spidey goes to go see Doc, and his troubles follow him, quite literally.
Pretty much.
And apparently the Order of the Web just also got played like the pawns they were, and apparently, well, not apparently, but we figure at least one person knew about it. That being Julia Carpenter, the new Madam Web.
Right.
By what she said during the course of when things started popping off. In the flashback, so it's like, well, she knew, which kind of brings to mind, like, well, okay, well, if she knew it was coming, like, I get it. You're pretty much a slave to how things have to go. But at the same time, like, even the Watcher has kind of intervened at some point.
Right.
So, but that being the case, I can't remember if there was anything else from Spidey to go over.
I was about to say, before we move on, what do you think so far of now this 50-issue long saga of the Kindred reveal and where we go from here?
So far it's been great. Now I am also a kind of a fan. Now this is kind of sort of been a big event type situation, but not really. Like, it is, but it isn't. So everything that's been leading up to now has been, in service of leading up to this event, which in a way is kind of how things have been played for the last few years with Marvel in general, and I kind of hate that part, but at the same time, it still feels like it harkens back to when I would say, a more classic way of storytelling. Like we would know how we normally would get like pretty much a year's worth of just stories and stories, and if it just so happens to fall into something in an event during the summer or in in an annual or something, so be
Right.
it. Like this feels genuine enough to still kind of be like that, but also we know that everything is leading up to another event, to another event, and another event. So I've
Right.
been still enjoying it.
Right. It's a little too decompressed for me, but at the same time, I definitely enjoy the fact that there's definitely some delayed gratification involved. Like they're forcing us to wait, and at times it was just like come on already, But at the same time, I definitely appreciate the fact that they are making us wait.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it was an oddly satisfying reveal for me, but obviously
Yeah.
it's because I was right. If I wasn't right, I would have been like, damn it. But obviously that being the case, uh, it was still kind of oddly satisfying for me to see that this is a nice development for the character. I rang the spoiler bell, but I would say this in trying to keep it still pretty vague. I'm glad that this character is going in a different direction.
Mm.
That's not necessarily in lockstep, or at least in following in certain footsteps.
It kind of is, but it kind of isn't.
Well, in the sense that it's a different source of power.
Sure. Yeah,
You know,
yeah. That part was,
that's
and
what
I'm
I mean.
also right,
Yeah,
and I'm
it's
also
kind of
kind
like
of glad.
a different identity. It's really differentiated. You
Well,
know,
we'll see if that continues to hold true.
right? If that lasts, let's put it that way, right?
Yeah, but I'm also also glad that I don't know. I'm kind of mixed with about it because I'm also kind of glad that it wasn't like it would have still been good probably if it was like the original Hobgoblin or whoever else we talked about last week
Mm-hmm.
as being potentials. But I'm actually kind of glad. But in this case, it's like, all right, well, given the relation to the people involved, I'm like, yeah, all
Right.
right.
The definition of the word kindred.
Yes, exactly. That's what, exactly. So I was like that, which is what goes back to what I was just saying was about being a little too on
Right.
the nose. But I'm like, okay, sure, we probably should have saw it, but you know, and I'm sure there will be another explanation of why that is, why he named himself that, or like, okay, we know who it is, so we get it. That being said, I think we can put the wraps on Amazing Spider-Man. Spider. Oh well, I will say this: like we do, I think I've already said that. Yeah, the next storyline going into it, and there's also some other stories that we'll talk about in the news later on about some going on with the Spidey book. But we were treated to the letters page at the end of this book and a nice little checklist of the forthcoming books. And all as Agent Silver said, the one shots that are coming alongside of it. So this is pretty much no different from how the last year or two has been going on with the last couple of events, which is slightly kind of a bummer. But I'm intrigued enough to kind of let it ride. There is another book that we're probably about to talk to in a little bit. That's like okay, can we just move this on a little bit? But
Mm-hmm.
but still enjoyable. That being said, like I said, Last Rites is coming up, and it sounds like Matthew Rosenberg is going to be writing some parts of that, and probably some of those one shots. I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
But the next 5 issues specifically is going to and the subsequent one shots are coming down the line, fast and furious.
Mm-hmm. Oh no. All right. So as I said earlier, the West Wing reunion special is on HBO Max. So
What's next?
Before we go into a certain other event that is going on, let's kind of get into some other business. So actually, you pick. I feel like I know which way you would probably go, but we'll see.
well, I mean, I'd go alphabetical. We talk Avengers 37.
Sure. Okay, that works. That works.
So this is the finale of the Age of Khonshu storyline. And if there's one minor gripe I would have with Jason Aaron's storytelling in Avengers right now is that it feels like we are hurtling from mini event to mini event.
Which again, like I was just saying, we've been doing with Marvel in a lot of cases anyway. So yeah,
Right. But this
this
is like
wasn't the one I
literally
was talking
within-
about, but yes.
Right, but this is literally within one title.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going from whatchamacallit, War of the Realms to Empire to to Outlawed to to King in Black to what, you know what I mean?
Right.
This is literally, like mini event. I mean, it's kind of like what they wanted to do with Justice League.
Yeah.
Which have, like these kind of mini events within the title. So getting back to what's going on here, as I said, this is the end. This is the finale of the Age of Khonshu, and we have the Avengers essentially rallying their forces, as well as Moon Knight, in a sense, not betraying, but definitely. There's a word that was on the tip of my tongue just earlier, but essentially, Moon Knight is forsaking. That's the word. Moon Knight is forsaking Khonshu for yet another god. This is something that happened at the end of last issue, and we find that his actions lead directly to Khonshu basically getting his powers slowly, his usurped powers getting slowly taken from him, despite the fact that he's trying to rally his own forces to try to defend what he had turned New York City into, aptly titled New Thebes City. So despite all that, the Avengers slowly but surely take some of those stolen powers that Moon Knight had basically stolen for Khonshu. They take those back, and that is the way that they're able to defeat him. There's actually a fun little scene in here where Captain America and Blade are fighting their way through some undead hordes, and Cap has like this funny comeback to Blade's kind of very very on point quip about how they're beating up some undead or monstrous type or werewolves and mummies basically, and Blade is like, you can't really talk to them, they're not much on talking. But Cap's like, well, they've got hands, they could point.
Right.
Which way? I got a laugh out of that. I was like, oh goodness.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Part of me thinks, and I know this is not the case, but part of me feels like this issue felt rushed, because we knew this was coming, and they've been on this arc for, the prerequisite amount for an arc anyway. So it's not like it was.
Right.
But I don't know. There was part of me that's like, okay, well, here's the cut and dry. The Avengers are back in force, and everything's coming together and going into, like you said earlier, in the next part of this, which apparently is bringing back shades of, and I'll go ahead and spoil this right now, shades of AVX, which is slightly giving me a groan, but given parties that are involved, So yeah, the whole Mephisto thing is still on the table, and there's like, oh yeah, we're still kind of tapping on that for a second, but it's still kind of going along to, whatever it is.
Right, that's part of the long game, that Aaron is playing here. Ultimately, as Roddykat mentioned, we're making our way through the various
plot points.
I was going to say the various members and their powers of the Avengers 1 million BC.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've passed we kind of did, where the Moon Knight was, where Khonshu was kind of dissed by not being a part of that group, but we're moving on to yet another member of the Avengers of 1 million BC, and that's sort of why I understand why it was kind of rushed, because it's like, well, this is just sort of bleeding into the next story,
right?
But at the same time, you understand that, and it's not really a spoiler because they revealed it last issue, it's kind of understandable that the Phoenix Force is going to do that to Khonshu, even with all the powers of the Avengers and all the powers that they had
Right.
stolen. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of why it seemed like maybe they weren't going to prolong that particular struggle.
Right, because
As soon as Phoenix shows up, it's kind of like not over, but
well,
the tide turned.
it's basically coming in service of going into the next chapter, which will quite possibly more directly involve the Phoenix. It seems what it sounds like.
Right, but my point being, like in terms of wrapping up this story,
Sure.
I think they didn't want to necessarily prolong the battle.
Yeah, which is fine.
It's like it's Phoenix versus Khonshu, even though Khonshu had all of these powers.
Right.
Phoenix is kind of like, all right, it's the Phoenix Force, so
Phoenix
it's kind of
like I'm the Juggernaut.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is pretty much that, and I think there was something else I was going to say about this. So the only thing I guess I'm slightly curious about was like, so what's going to happen to Moon Knight now? Like he's forsaken Khonshu, like he doesn't have it's not like he was having the Phoenix powers long term. No one does, with the I'm about to say with the exception of Jean Grey, but even then, and this part of it. So I wonder if we're going to get any like here's the epilogue on what's going to happen with Moon Knight, or was this kind of a sort of a setup for Jason Aaron to write to get a Moon Knight book, started?
It's possible. It was a nice little star turn for him.
Mm-hmm.
This little kind of like a what could be considered what's the term? I want to say underground pilot. A backdoor pilot. That's what
backdoor pilot. Yes.
That I knew there was an official industry term for this. This is kind of like a backdoor pilot for a Moon Knight series.
Right. So
I can imagine that, and Khonshu's not completely out of like Khonshu may be defeated, but he still has got possibly one follower, even though as we said earlier, Moon Knight did forsake him in favor of another god, quote unquote.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. Use one god to punch out another one, so to speak. But yeah, so we'll see how that happens, or if anything, it would be kind of a shame for them to be like, okay, we're just using Moon Knight for this, and nothing actually comes about, doing anything else with him.
Right.
So that would.
And as Roddykat mentioned, there are hints of things that have happened during AVX. Because even the X-Men notice what happens at the end of this issue, because they're literally written into the issue.
Yes, exactly.
So there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no pussyfooting around. This is just, the X-Men, they notice, guess what? The Phoenix Force is back around Earth.
Which brings me to my last thought about this. Was like, they noticed this, which understandably is a big thing for them to notice, and yes, they should. But at the same time, everything that happened with Empire and them being actually on the new move, and granted, yes, they were a part of that. So yes, but I was like, but they were kind of just still sectioned off in their own thing. If that now, yes, they got their own thing going on there, and exercise going on, as as we were probably going to talk about. But I'm like, you mean to tell me they didn't notice this, but they just in a box way noticed this part, So like, all right, sure, comics. Let it go.
I would just say that the cover for next issue has Mephisto on it.
Yeah,
so it looks like maybe dealing with that sooner rather than later.
Probably not. we've been duped by covers in the past, so I think Aaron's still playing a longer game in this.
A long game.
Mm-hmm. So he might touch on it, but I doubt if this is gonna be anything meaningful.
Or final,
especially for that, and that would be really weird for him in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since it's not like 50. Like I can see coming close to 50, he probably starting wrapping things up. Like maybe I don't know if he's going to end this run or he's going to be on it for a little bit longer, but who even knows? But
gotcha.
That would be something that would happen closer to 50 if he's playing it right. And
right.
I guess that being the case, we can move on to speaking of a book that's coming closer to 50. Um, Immortal Hulk number 38. Oops, not 8, 38. Thank you very much. So, I'm just gonna read from my notes on this one. Okay, we get it. Bruce's dad has issues, and he himself has daddy issues. Can we get past this part? And I know this is going to be a significant thing. This is definitely a significant thing going into the the end of the run of this book, and just in general, or at least as a part of it. But anyway, the leader makes himself known in mind, and we see he's still hitting reply all. I see. And yet another persona re-enters the field, which is why I had this question that I saved for the thing.
Mm-hmm.
We know who this persona is, correct?
Yes.
This is the one that has been pretty much in control the majority of the book, correct?
That's my understanding.
So why does
Or
it
at
look
least
like
exerting more influence.
right? Has this persona ever looked? Has the Hulk ever looked like that before?
No, but the Devil Hulk has.
Okay. But that's what I was like, because usually the personas have come around. Like, the only one we really haven't seen is Grey Hulk, and I think they touched upon that in the.
Well, Joe Fixit is right. Exactly. I was about to say Joe Fixit is there, but not
Right.
not Grey Hulk.
Right, but they kind of talk. That's been mentioned in the letters page of this issue as a matter of fact. 'Cause it sounds like there might be a little bit more as to reason as to why that's the case. But nevertheless, we have seen plenty of iterations of the Hulk in his mind or otherwise. And I don't recall ever seeing the character looking like this. Which, if the news that I saw from that is in the news, well, it's not. It's in the news, but it's not necessarily. Well, it is in the news, but regardless, if the news I saw is any indication, I'm kind of wondering if this is going to play into some of that, without giving anything away. But regardless, the leader's pretty much showing himself and monologuing why he's got things in Banner's mind under wraps. But we also see him, getting hit in the real world, taking a hit in the real world by the people surrounding Banner, or at least, and in his mind, not of them, because I forgot about that one part with Doc Samson.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this one is pretty much like, hey, here's everybody in play. Here's some things, and now we're shifting some things around the board because, like I said, one of the characters has been temporarily, taken off the shelf because that one of the characters that was being controlled by the leader, and like I said, Dr. Sampson kind of does his thing in his mind. Whether he gets his body back, we don't even know. The whole Bruce's dad thing is kind of getting a little long, like I already said. So hopefully that kind of gets to a place.
Right. They kind of rehash it because they need to kind of reestablish for everyone that that's where this persona of the Hulk,
Mhm.
pre-Gamma, really comes from.
Sure.
So,
But I figured
I understood it. I kind of appreciated the fact that they really used that Paradise Lost quote right in the beginning
Right.
to play to roll right into it.
Mm-hmm.
So that I definitely understood it. Maybe my tolerance for it is just a matter of I understand where Al Ewing is kind of laying the pieces because they put this character in that prison, that sarcophagus, basically.
Right.
And the point is that they finally freed him, and he's out and about, and he's essentially created to protect, or at least created to embody Bruce Banner's urge to protect himself.
Sure.
And that's where this particular Hulk persona comes from. So
Sure.
that's where that's kind of like the last reserve that's able to kind of break free and go after the leader in this, at least in this portion of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right, and
we'll
like I
see
said,
where. I was about to say we'll see where we go in the next issue because it looks like this is just starting.
right. And like I said, it's not that I understood all that, and that's been established. Heck, even coming into this volume in general, that was kind of established, but just didn't really get touched on as a point up until this and this something. But I feel like my only thing is like I feel like especially with like some of the other recent issues that have come out, like that whole other, and granted you didn't necessarily have to read it, so if you're not like me and you haven't been reading that, it may not bother you so much. But like the She-Hulk issue, the More She-Hulk issue, that other issue, that the other one-shot issue.
The threshing place.
Exactly. Well,
Right.
less that one, but definitely that one. But there was another one fairly recently that pretty much focused on Banner's dad. And I was like, and it's all of the stuff that's been going on in these, just in these generals. And I was like, all right, yes, we get it. Let's do something with this, and instead of just seeing like we kind of figure like this. If you've been on this book for any length of time, you kind of get this. You get that part about it, but it's like, all right, but where is this going? That's all I'm asking. I'm not saying that. I'm saying all that to not say to say that this book is still not interesting, because it is. This one probably, this particular issue, it's a standard issue, but normally we've been used to kind of like boom, a thing happens, like not necessarily action, but like some revelation, some new persona, or something happens, in the course of this, and some of that still happens. This particular issue is just like, yeah, here's the things that happen, and the pieces are still there, and they either getting moved around or whatever the case may be, and we're getting somewhere for certain. But this is just pretty much a standard issue. It's a standard issue as far as this run is concerned. It's just that part about it with Bruce's dad, like, all right, where are we going this? What are we doing with this? As opposed to keep touching on it for. Clearly, there's a reason why it keeps touching on it, right? But it's like, okay, let's put that out there. Let's see where we're trying to get to with that. What's the end goal with that one? And I normally try not to be like that, because I kind of like to see that, I want to see things play out, and I want to see things play out naturally like they're supposed to, and the long game that's being played here. But that part is just kind of starting to get irksome.
To each their own.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
All righty.
That being the case.
Want to move to whatchamacallit, to Ten of Swords before we go rapid fire?
Sure, let's do that. Did you actually read it? I mean, it's kind of a stupid question to ask, but did you actually read it in order, or did you kind of just like?
No, I read it in order.
Okay.
I actually, because I was going off of my physical copies this week, I looked at the top of the cover.
Right.
And chapter, it was like 6, 7, 8, I think it was.
Right. So. And this is one of those cases to where I weirdly appreciate the way this is being told, and being that COVID didn't necessarily affect this event as much as it did, say, Outlawed,
right, or even Empire,
right? Because because the varying time
much
frames
more.
That came in.
I was gonna say much more Outlawed, but
right, exactly,
right.
Because Outlawed is pretty much all out of order, whereas this one, and I think I almost would go so far as to say is like they pretty much like, no, this. If I could see like Hickman or somebody was like, no, this has to be told into order. But like I said, the way things played out with COVID and everything, it just so happened that this was starting up when it started up anyway, so it was on track to not be too out of line, or not out of line at all. So it pretty much plays like it's supposed to. Which brings us to these with these issues for this week, starting with Hellions number 5. In which they bring back Empath, which I don't know why they did, but apparently they did, and the Hellions get sent on a mission that is pretty much going to go bad. It has to. There's no way in the world that that mission ends well for them, or for things in general. Because they're going into the world to do a thing behind enemy lines. I won't tell you what. And even full knowing that the Resurrection Protocols is going to can't save them basically. But this is pretty much the Suicide Squad for the X folks, and being led by one Sinister. We don't know which one because we don't know if it's Prime or one of the clones because I don't think that's been established. Which that's a whole funny situation because so if you did not know, Sinister also has his own cloning process and has for quite some time, but the rest of the Krakoans don't know about this. And my question on that is, well, does Sinister actually even know whether his cloning process is going to be any different in Otherworld than the Resurrection protocols? Because he seems pretty certain, or maybe he doesn't care. I don't know, because neither one of those has been established. Because he makes a proposition to Jamie Braddock for safe passage through because of what they're trying to do. And let's just say their mission is to put a wrench into the plans of the concepts of champions or concepts of swords, as they keep saying here. And they just started onto that. And this book's kind of silly. This actually feels like it's kind of, there's a little bit of Marauders type of fun in this issue.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely dig the Suicide Squad comparison because, there's definitely that element to it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I guess, you're saying that it's kind of lighthearted. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is to a certain extent, especially with the specific characters. I mean, there's Orphan Maker and Nanny in here, and they're just played for laughs. I'm like, they're just useless.
Yeah.
And Sinister is, if he wasn't flamboyant before,
they are definitely playing that up now.
Yeah, they're playing that up to a whole new level in this book right now. I was like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was pretty. It was a pretty offbeat but still interesting issue. They're obviously going to use Hellion as a foil for a lot of their storytelling,
right?
Because he is such a strong. I don't want to say personality, but given that these other characters are kind of just offbeat, he's got a very strong. He's going to end up being a driving force behind a lot of where these stories go, I think.
Maybe because there was in the beginning of this book coming in, there was a little part about Psylocke, being one being part of the team and two being the head of the team and asserting her dominance over a member or two, and possibly laying down the possibility that she has, some plans of her own with this group that may or may not put her in, in direct confrontation with Sinister. We don't know, but some of that seemed like it might have been laid down. But also, we also know that who's writing this book actually? Never mind. This is a different book I'm thinking about. What I was about to say has nothing to do with that. So
I was like, okay.
Yeah, because I was thinking about something that I brought up that might not end up being the case because someone's leaving one of the books that we're going to talk about, but that's not the case.
Got it.
So, yeah, that's pretty much that. And like I said, Sinister kind of has the plan, but gets roped into being the one to also going on this plan that he hatched up instead of staying behind like he thought was going to happen. That whole part with the Quiet Council was kind of amusing on that part, including Magneto's like, can I change my vote, please?
Right.
So, which ended up, making the mission start off basically. So, but yeah, this book's been kind of fun. I hope it continues to be, but also we also have Marauders. So on the other side of that coin, that's also kind of fun, but I don't know. Some would say this book may not be relevant or maybe necessary, but we'll see where it goes after X of Swords, 10 of Swords. Mm-hmm. Unless you got something else to say, we can go push on to the next one.
Next one.
New Mutants, number 13. If you want to go ahead and take that one.
Right. ultimately, this issue is about Doug Ramsey, who admittedly is not a swordsman. And
Or any
he's
type
not a
of a
swordsman
fighter.
even with Warlock as his sword.
Right.
And this is something that Magic is trying to remedy to some effect throughout the course of this issue. Ultimately, we get to the point where, is it this issue that someone comes out? Is it? I think it is Doug that comes out and says, yes.
Yeah.
It is in this issue where Doug is talking to Warlock and Krakoa, and he says, everyone else is out questing for their swords. And I'm like, duh, that's what I've been saying. And of course, his sword is just, Warlock.
He's had him with him the whole time, yeah.
Exactly.
Which again brings up the question that we talked. Well, it brings up the thing that we talked about before the show. In that, okay, Warlock was. Well, at least I guess to the audience. I don't know if it was to the Krakoans, but it was a secret that wasn't that much of a secret, because again, since Hoxpox, we've seen him with Warlock as his arm, but we weren't sure what the deal was on it up until fairly recently, where it came out that he was supposedly hiding the fact for some reason.
Did we miss it?
Huh?
Did we miss it?
Miss what? That they've
the kind of acknowledgement that Warlock and he are kind of riding on the same train.
I believe this was from one of those giant size books. I believe it was the Nightcrawler one, as a matter of fact. That
where they came out and presented that fact to everybody.
Well, not to everybody, but just to the people who was on the team with him at the time. So I assume it just spread from there.
Gotcha. I got to go back to that.
Yeah.
I got to go back to that.
Because it was kind of weird even at that time. It was like, okay, Doug's on this team, and sure, they had to communicate, but then ended up... Well, let me phrase that. Let me take that back, because I might not be wrong. One, that was part of it, but two, it was the Storm book. Because you remember, he had to use Warlock to help Storms with her situation from that book.
Maybe that's where it became more obvious?
Yes.
Okay.
Because even with because even with the Nightcrawler book, I remember, like, the team knew, and I think even there was like, so that was the thing, haha, it was a secret, but I think he was like, but still keep it on the hush. Right. But again, the Storm one was the one where it was like, I got to use this, we got to do this to help Storm, so that's probably when it became more widely known. More than likely. Gotcha. But that being said, so Iana's training Doug, or trying to train Doug, and Krakoa's like, look, you shouldn't be going. You should send somebody else in your place. But Doug's like, no, I got to do this. It's because X, Y, and Z and whatever. And which brings me to my point I said before the show. It was like, you would think, I'm kind of actually surprised that they didn't bring this up, but you would think Doug, who, as a member of the New Mutants in the past, has died. I don't want to say he was the first, if not the only one, to die on that team.
He was the. Oh no! Did they kill Karma before him?
They might have killed Karma before him. Yeah. Oh. But she ended up coming back, so that's But even then, you would think he would have done, and especially with knowledge of that going into this, if we're not mistaken. Doug being the weakest member, the less combat-focused member, inclined member of the group, would have been doing more training since then. So he could at least defend himself if he needed to, like, because he's always dependent on Warlock, to defend him, which he's still doing now, but that's beside the point. So you would think going in there, it's like, he would have had a little bit more training than this, but it's just like, no, I'm just speaking for Krakoa and doing my thing, and, nothing's, presumably it's like, no, this is, we're here. What's going to happen kind of situation, but we don't necessarily know that part, but, and so people are trying to look out for him, and people are recognizing that, it's like, you go out there, you're gonna die, kid. So, and Iana pretty much just says that at the end of the issue. And someone else comes along, seemingly of concern, but no, wasn't really concerned. They were just mad that they weren't the one picked to go and fight. So, but they had an idea that would presumably help Doug, but also put him in the place that he wanted to be in, which I found kind of amusing.
I forgot about that. What a
Mhm.
loser.
So like that was, I was like, okay, that was an interesting aside, but in service of the story, I get it. So, but like I said, Doug's being headstrong about this and decides he wants to do the thing. But like I said, the realism comes at the end of this issue, which I do love. How, by the way, all of these issues kind of, they are definitely, it is definitely being read or to being put together to be read in order. And
Mm-hmm.
if that wasn't already evident by the chapter numbering at the tops of the books, reading the inside is definitely, bearing that out, because you see there's references from Hellions, I believe, in New Mutants. There's definitely references in New Mutants that goes into the next book. So the next book we're going to talk about, because and during the course of before Iana starts training Doug, she basically calls Cable and tells them what's going on, because apparently he wasn't aware of it because they're off on somewhere else, which we'll get into in a second.
Right. I would just add that I think this is definitely this is, at least in my experience. Obviously, I've been reading X-Men books for a long time, but when it comes to these kind of big crossovers, as long as editorial, and in this case Hickman, is kind of a member of a pseudo member of editorial, as kind of like the head of the X, the X corner of the universe.
Right.
As long as editorial has is running a tight ship when it comes to these big crossovers and big events where you're supposed to be reading stuff in order, it flows better. And I'm reminded of X-Men events in the past, in the further past, where there was a very much a tighter ship being run by the editorial staff. So you got things coming out that read, or at least maybe had notes that said, if you missed this, please check this issue.
Right.
So I definitely appreciate that. But then again, as we mentioned earlier, this event really hasn't been as affected, because of its timing, hasn't been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's had that benefit as well, that it's been able to come out relatively on time and relatively when it's supposed to.
Which brings me to that, going to that point. I believe, yes, editorial definitely is doing their thing on it, but I feel like this is more of Hickman's adherence to how he wants his story to be played out. And I feel like we saw some of that with.
I was about to say Anthony Howard.
Yes, Anthony Howard, but Hickman being the shepherd of Hoxpox and this whole thing, all going into this regardless.
Right. Which is why it's kind of like the pseudo editorial, because they're he's the one providing direction.
Right. So I feel like he didn't want. I feel like he's insistent on. There was some insistence on his part that that the story be played out the way it is for a reason, and I feel like that bears back to his Avengers run, which did well for the way it came out and how it did, because he had 2 books back then, and he's got a couple books here now. But there were some similarities between the way this is being handled and how that was being handled, which kind of makes me think that this might be his insistence, part of his insistence on how this is reading or how this is bearing out. And it's all the better for it. But regardless, so that's pretty much New Mutants number 13. This is a particular click of the week for me, because for what it was. But I don't know if you have anything else on that.
No. We can handle Cable and then go to rapid fire.
Cable number 5, then. Hit it.
Right. So, in basically just a couple of sentences, we find out what happened to the Peak. And so, where is Agent Brand in all this?
Well, we know where she was, Empire.
Right, but
let me say that we know where she was at the end of Empire. We don't know where she was during
when this happened.
Right,
when this happened to the Peak. That's my point.
But I thought, so that again goes back to the question of where is Alpha. So I was under the impression, and we talked about this before in Empire, that Alpha Flight was stationed on the Peak, but as we found out that the Peak was abandoned, apparently that was a brand new station. So she was clearly had to been on whatever station the Alpha Flight station. Now the Peak's apparently still been out there, just lingering all this time for some odd reason. But I was under the impression that it was the Peak that they were on all this time, even going back to when Captain Marvel was running the place. But apparently that's not.
And when
That may not be
I
the
was
case.
when Omega and when Gamma Flight decided to kind of branch off,
Right.
during Immortal Hulk, I thought they were operating out of the peak as well. So
Exactly.
this must have happened at some point after they kind of went rogue.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the question in this, and I don't know if they're going to bring that up at all. I would like to believe it is, and especially going into what we know is going to be Abigail Brand's series
Mhm.
coming forth.
You're right. They're going to integrate her more into the X corner.
Right.
So X
But-
corner of the universe, that is. So
Right.
that she's going to be playing much more of a role, and we'll probably get some information on that in her series.
I would like to think so, but the fact that they brought it up here may be in service of that, or maybe there's something else going on. So basically what happens is we see part of the Summers clan, Cable, Scott, and Jean. At the peak, they were already there as of the last couple of issues of Cable. Well, as of the last issue of Cable, and they're investigating the case. Why is it deserted? Like we've already said, they find that out. We introduced to there's a sci-fi movie element to this in a way. I don't want to say Event Horizon because I don't think I've ever seen that movie, so I'm not one to really talk about that part. But basically, there's some sci-fi movie notes that you could kind of put out from this book. But basically, they investigate. We are introduced or possibly reintroduced. I don't know this group of folks that happen to take over the peak and cause what happened to everybody on it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's going to I feel like that's going to be something that's going to get brought up again also, and that's probably why that was established, I guess. But the Gene, Scott, and Cable pretty much deal with that, and Cable gets the sword for him to be able to go to get back to Krakoa in time for the extra sword shenanigans. So this is pretty much possibly in service of something that's going to get brought up later.
More than likely.
Yeah.
More than likely, because they introduced this new. What did they call them? Minor spoiler alert.
I believe it's called the Vectra, or the Vectora, or something like that. One of them.
Right. I mean, I'm just gonna scroll through real quick. I could swear they the Vescora.
The Vescora, yeah.
Right.
It was something like that. Again, we get another call from Magic, who they didn't even mention the last call, but they just assumed that you clearly read New Mutants 13 and knew that that this was another call that was after that. So I thought that, which kind of put me back into the minds of the storytelling elements of this, and even she takes a dig at what we found out or what we already knew in New Mutants 13. It's like not everyone's a warrior, so like, well, we knew who that was a dig for. But yeah, it seemed like the peak were killed by Borderlands folks, and if you know the video game Borderlands, you know the symbol I'm talking about, which that's what it looked like. And also there was a Minecraft portal in here that looks like ended to be closed. That was closed because of being powered up by the peak being online. I honestly expected a little bit more sci-fi horror in this than it was, but it was enough to kind of establish like, okay, this is the thing that's happening, or this is the thing that's got brought up.
Right. It's kind of as Roddykat said. This is more obvious. This is almost obviously a setup for something more coming down the road in the X-Men books, outside of them just setting up, what the light of Galador can do.
Mm-hmm.
And was it at the end of this issue where someone criticized, where Cable tries to rename the sword, and they're like yelling at him like, no, you can't rename the sword, you punk.
Yeah, like that's stupid. Yeah, that was Iana talking about you renamed your sword. That's lame. I love Iana, especially because she's like, look, I'm down to fight. I don't care, and she's kind of been like that, especially for the last few years, but pretty much in general has been like that. But it's just like, look, I'm gonna be real matter of fact about this. That's all lame. Like she will tell you what she thinks, and don't even give a care in a lot of cases. But it's kind of funny her interactions with folks. But yeah, that's Cable number 5, and that's pretty much the X corner of the X of Swords for the week, the Ten of Swords stuff for the week. Oh well, actually, I take it back. There is one more book, but I don't think you read it or I read it either.
What's that?
The handbook, the Ten of
Oh
Swords
no,
handbook.
no. My whatchamacallit, my comic shop didn't get their order in of the handbook, so
Gotcha.
I didn't. I pulled it. I didn't get it.
Gotcha. So
Although I'm looking forward to reading it because it's probably it's probably chock full of all sorts of information that might be spoilerific.
maybe quite possibly, but also it seemed like a pretty much a mini Ohatmu for this event, which they've been doing, and that calls into question is like, well, if we're getting these little things for these events, and why can't we just get an official update to the Ohatmu? And we talk about in the past, like they got wikis and stuff right now, but if that's the case, they could do wikis for this stuff too, which they will. But I don't know. That part was like, okay, just you do this stuff. Just give me a brand new Ohatmu. I want that, a physical version. That's all.
All right. I guess we can. If we're done with this, we can roll into rapid fire.
I'm scrolling through this thing. There's a walls and walls of text, but there are also some Ohatmu. Like there's definitely some Ohatmu-ness to this book. So confirmed.
Yeah, I was about to say I definitely pull the handbooks I'm interested in, which is one I definitely understand why they don't think it's going to be a big seller. And if I recall correctly, not very many people pulled it at my store at all. So, it's not like they're going to it's not like they're going to buy a whole bunch to put on the shelf.
Right.
This is not that kind of book.
Which is sad because it used to be for some of us that this was that type of book.
Right.
Right.
Right, absolutely.
But that being the case, we can move on to. You got something else? Or we going to rapid fire? You said.
Oh,
okay.
Fire.
Hit it.
Right. Here we go.
And actually, I really don't. I don't know how much. I'll go first because I don't really have that much more left. Star Wars Darth Vader number 6. Yes, confirmed. So let's see. Look, a glimpse of future past events under the guise of punishment. Palpatine quoting Obi-Wan, which that whole thing caused me to go back and watch the end of Revenge of the Sith again for some silly reason. Anyway,
really?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. I didn't necessarily have to, but I was like, okay, I know that was a quote fairly much from that. And if you know the part that maybe have something to do with the high ground, but not necessarily that, then you kind of know what I'm talking about. A thing gets said. Anyway, so Palpatine teaches Vader, but speaking of that, Palpatine teaches Vader a lesson by putting him back where he found him, but this time sending a teaching aid. So that's pretty much what can be said about that. And I'm like, well, they really are treading this old ground, but not necessarily treading. I shouldn't say that. They're pretty much cementing canon, I guess, by bringing this stuff up, and especially where this in Star Wars is being set. So it's probably not fair to say treading, but regardless, it is what it is. Are you reading this book, or were you going to read this book?
Which one?
Vader.
I have not jumped on this latest volume. I've been meaning to. I haven't yet. What is up to 6?
Yes.
I could probably go through and see what's what we have in our storage of review copies and catch up.
Right.
Yeah, it's Greg Pak, correct?
It is Greg Pak. Yes. And yeah, if you need that, you let me know because I think I still got those. Anyway, Injustice Year Zero, number 8. After leaving the Joker, Harley goes to see one other person that she trusts and asks her a favor. Ivy, in turn, goes to almost do what needed to be done, but obviously if she had done that, then Injustice wouldn't happen. Harley and that guy's daughter makes a cameo, which I totally forgot was a thing, but it's continuity. So, and Harley and Ivy take the big leap. And necessarily, but not necessarily in a Thelma and Louise type situation.
Oh, no.
That other big leap. And that is it for me.
All right. It sounds like I only have 2 more books as well. First is Captain America number 24. Cap and the newly restored but better, and that's something we find out in this issue, Sharon Carter work out their current status in more ways than in the workout room. Boom, chicka, wow, wow. Alexander Lukin is struggling with his status as a host for the Red Skull, but his wife Alexa is not. The big 25th issue will see the return in full of the Red Skull. I'll tell you that, in my opinion, Coates has definitely drawn upon some of the Captain America runs that have been close to my heart, going back to Grunwald as well as the Brubaker stuff. It's definitely been a nice mix of that. So I like to see, I'm happy to see, someone who's got a real sense of history really try to play with those tools and those characters and see where they go from here. And, it's obviously been a while since we've seen the Red Skull proper, and he is obviously going to be, if I'm not even talking about looking at solicits. I'm pretty sure he comes back in issue 25. It's one of those big round number issues.
Makes sense.
So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as a novelist, it helps to do your research, even if you were already a fan of what you're doing research on or writing at the time, regardless. And yeah, it was probably inevitable that the Red Skull come back at some point. I was going to ask what makes Sharon Carter better.
Take a look.
Okay.
Take a look. Well, I mean, she's better in the sense that she is not only younger but better.
Okay.
Because remember, she was old as a result of the Rick Remender run, but now she is young and better.
Right, but what I'm saying is, what I was asking was like, but that's what I was thinking, like young as opposed to how she was before she got old, or better than even then.
Better than even then.
Okay.
Like I said, better.
Sure.
And I don't want to spoil the whole thing.
I get that. Like, is this a Psylocke situation or what? But yeah, that's fine. Don't.
Like I said, better. I mean, it's. I hate to say this, it's really the simplest way to describe it, and I think that's exactly how Coates describes it in the book. So, without spoiling the whole thing, she actually comes out better.
Fair enough.
As a result of Celine and all that stuff. So.
Okay.
But last but not least for me is Dark Knight's Death Metal number 4 of 7.
Excellent!
Wonder Woman helps Superboy Prime, of all people, find the hero inside, but their attempt to redirect the crisis energy away from the Batman who laughs fails miserably. So we have 3 more issues of this series to go, and we got some news this week about what is going to happen as a result of the fallout from Dark Knight's Death Metal.
Yeah, no surprise. Another event.
Right. It's actually going to be. Oh, we'll get on. We'll talk about news.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that's it for you?
That's it. So here comes Clicks of the Week.
All right, folks. Clicks of the Week time. We got a couple from our absentee folks here, one of which happens to be Tim's pick for Hellions number 5.
Interesting. I think he's picked Hellions each of the last 2 issues.
I mean, we know Tim to be a big X fan, so when he doesn't pick one, it's kind of a surprise. But that's not saying that X books can have people falling off or not being as good as other stuff. But
Sure.
This is kind of even with that though, it's kind of a surprising pick, because especially how we've talked about. Well, it's not surprising for this week, but it's surprising for in general, because let's face it, Hellions is in some people's eyes have not necessarily have gotten the greatest start.
Right.
And has helped people. But it sounds like some people are coming around to it if it keeps up. So we'll see how that works out. And it was a good book this week, because like we already talked about, it was fun. And Dirt's pick was Detective Comics 1028. For reasons did he give?
He did give some reasons.
It's a one and done Batman story, and that suddenly feels so refreshing.
Listen, coming out of Joker War, I kind of understand where he's coming from.
I guess, but there's a glut of Batman stuff in general, and we have no shortage of it coming down the pike, as we found out. But it is what it is.
Alrighty. As for myself, I think I've got two candidates. Um, two strong candidates. One is going to be Immortal Hulk 38, and the
Mhm.
other is Amazing Spider-Man number 50, aka 851. Um, I think in terms of what I really enjoyed this week, I think I'm going to go with Immortal Hulk number 38 because I really liked what was happening, on the leader's end inside Bruce Banner's brain, and I liked some of the things that were happening outside with the. I think you mentioned it was the leader doing multiple Zoom calls through the green door.
Yeah, basically he was doing reply all, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, reply all, but I'm like, no, he's actually doing multiple Zoom calls
Well, a little bit of
through
both.
the green door. So because or at least I don't know if people could see him on the other side of the green door. That's the thing. So
Right.
uh,
Well, that's the thing. That's yeah, exactly. Because that's why I said reply all, because it's like he's basically talking through multiple fronts and forgetting that he's, well, not forgetting, but it was like he's, I guess you could say he's having trouble, you know,
mhm,
specifying the people that he's trying to talk to at one particular time or another,
all
which is led to uh, things happening. But yeah.
right. That book is crazy. I definitely appreciate the fact that we've been on board with the Immortal Hulk since day one.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since it dropped, we gave it a shot and we stuck with it. So, you know, it's crazy that I remember talking about this. I was talking about this at the comic book store the other day, um, about how when I went to see Al Ewing at New York Comic Con, I think Immortal Hulk was maybe 6 issues in or 7 issues in, something like that. So it still really hadn't caught on. And I remember getting my issue number one and I think my issue number two signed. And I remember complimenting him on it because, I thought it was going in this like really cool, and everyone obviously uh, really stressed the body horror aspect that was being put in by Joe Bennett. But I just really like it's kind of like the creepy vibe, and it's funny to see how far we've come. And what was it? Bennett said they were going to go until issue 50, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we still got some time left on Immortal Hulk, but I definitely enjoyed this past issue.
Yeah, and even with what I said earlier about the issue, like the run is still solid. Like this, this even this issue is still solid, even in its quote unquote low moments, or at least less action oriented. Which to me, some of that's probably been more some of the more compelling stuff, like the things that get the revelations that come out of it in this volume. But yeah, we've definitely been on this train since the beginning of this run. Expecting, not ensuring what to expect from Al Ewing, but appreciating what he brings to a book, and Joe Bennett on the art also, especially, and the coloring and everything else. Like this just been a solid book from, you know, since then. So for myself, hmm, I'm probably going to go with. Why did I put Hellions on there twice? I do not know.
You really liked it that much?
No, I was doing the sheet as I'm doing this, and I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing apparently. Um, but I'm thinking I might actually go along with Tim. No, I am not actually. Hmm. I do like Hellions was a good book. It was like I said, it was a good fun book. I enjoyed it immensely. But weirdly enough, I'm going to go with New Mutants number 13.
Sure.
Actually, um, because yeah, that whole thing with with like this is probably a less stated book than Hellions was in this case, but as the middle chapter of this week's books, and that whole thing with Ayana trying to train Cipher and just bopping them around, and everybody else coming to it, and it was like, yeah, okay, so I'm enjoying this. So, and that is it for Clicks of the Week. Could you give us an ad read, please, sir?
Our first ad read of the night is for Wink, because we could all use a drink right now. Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your taste and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink wines through CSPN. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
And we start off with the cinematic news, as we do every week about this time. I don't know why I went to radio voice just now, but I guess I just did. I don't know. Anyway, Thundercats. What season 2 of the 2011 reboot would have looked like had it been able to come to pass? The 2011 reboot of the Thundercats truly left fans wanting more. I'll get into that in a second. While fans and critics alike enjoyed the sleeker, edgier, and more cinematic look and feel of the show, Cartoon Network canceled it after 1 season. 8 years later, wow, has it been that long? Jesus. Fans still desire to see how the character arcs and stories would have been resolved. And I, admittedly, having rewatched a little bit of it recently, I kind of feel this. But in addition to what the creative team has revealed at conventions, art director Dan Norton recorded a podcast interview elaborating on how the story would have developed. And this article goes on to some of the developments surrounding Lion-O and Tiger's story and how that affected the other characters around them. So, but we won't get into that, but you can read that for yourself if you are so inclined. They gave Tiger a gun. I still can't get over that. Anywho, but yeah, that 2011 one had some. I feel like I don't want to go so far as to say it's like Spectacular Spider-Man for Agent 70, but it gave some interesting feels. Anyway, next up.
Alrighty, next up, Westworld star. Is he really the star of Westworld or a star of Westworld?
I wouldn't say he's a star. I don't know, unless they propped him up a little bit more.
Yeah, I was about to say, I know that Westworld has lots of rotating stars.
Right.
Luke Hemsworth expressed an interest in joining his brother, Thor actor Chris Hemsworth, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as X-Men's Wolverine. He says that he learned to draw through comic books. I sympathize. Copying comic books since he was about 10 years old, the elder Hemsworth told Screen Rant. Spawn was a big one for him. He really loved Todd McFarlane's Spawn, and then Batman. He would have fought Rob Pattinson for those gauntlets. And Wolverine, he claims that he wants to get, he'd like to see it go to another Aussie, and he'd have to grow some chest hair, but he's ready for Wolverine. I just looked it up online. He's 5'11". He's still too tall in my book, but
That's
it's
never
still.
stopped him.
I was about to say it's still better than 6 foot something Hugh Jackman, which I never bought. I know people love Hugh Jackman, but I never bought it.
Yeah. I thought he did all right, given some of his older roles after that, it's like, who'd have thunk it?
I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna be that guy. Be like, he was too damn tall. It just didn't look right.
Yeah, I mean, he had the look, like, at least the facial hair look. Like, yeah, the tallness aside, he was at least committed to it.
They should have done the reverse Hobbit. Made him short.
And I want to say he did I feel like I remember reading a story where he was like kind of slumped, or kind of hunched over a little bit as he was playing or something.
Yeah,
I don't remember if that was the case.
I was about to say I think they did try to do that so that he would always be like in that crouched over, like kind of ready to pounce position that Wolverine often is drawn in.
Right.
So, but yeah, too tall.
Yeah. And also, yes, folks, if you didn't already know, there's a couple of other Hemsworths floating around. I'm sure people at this point are well aware of it as they gush and fawn. But I'm sitting here thinking, like, how would you go along to explain Thor and Wolverine looking so much alike?
They actually
I know they
don't.
were, huh?
He doesn't. He must look like one of the other parents because one of the other parent, like the other parent, because I think Chris Hemsworth and Liam Hemsworth have a stronger resemblance to this guy. I looked this
Right.
guy up.
Yeah. Which I mean, there's the resemblance there, but yeah, you're kind of right. You know, it's just and I didn't know. Well,
It's just stronger, right? It's a stronger resemblance.
Exactly.
You know, the other ones, right.
Plus, at this point, I was like, well, who would have thought? But then again, we see more of Chris than the other ones, unless you watch Westworld or whatever. So I was like, what's that? Wait, Luke is the older one? Okay, great. Whatever. Next up, though, Vincent D'Onofrio is low-key lobbying to join Spider-Man 3 as Kingpin. Actor Vincent D'Onofrio garnered widespread acclaim from critics and audiences for his portrayal of Wilson Fisk in Netflix's Daredevil. Since the series' cancellation, many fans have called for the actor's inclusion in the MCU proper. And he has also been doing that same call, but, hey, respectfully. In response to a Twitter post by Fandom, asking, what's the one character you want to be added to Spider-Man 3? D'Onofrio tweeted the Fisk line, "When I was a boy." He also retweeted a comment to the Fandom post by Geek to Me Radio, who wrote, "One character I wanted added to Spider-Man 3. How about Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin?" So of course, because people are watching for the names on Twitter. So I mean, I liked his version. He definitely got into his role. So, and you still kind of wonder, it's like, why don't they use the folks that are already established from the Netflix series in the MCU? But things are things. So, and he's a big enough actor to be able to do both, or has had some screen time. So who knows?
Sure.
But
listen, I won't mind it. I think that's a good idea. So
yeah, like it's never made sense as why the separation between the TV and movies for certain cases, especially. Anyway, next up.
It's more of a smack in the face to Ike Perlmutter. Anyway, I just pulled a Roddykat there, snuck in some commentary remark.
Nice. I've taught
next
you well. No.
What's that?
So I've taught you well.
Oh, no.
I should have said, it was like, yeah, you've been hanging around me too long, but
So next up, Disney Plus rebrands non-MCU Marvel films as Marvel Legacy. So Disney's streaming service, Disney Plus, has created a new category for a certain type of Marvel film. Movies in the new Marvel Legacy category may not appear to have much connection to each other at first glance, but one thing unites them all: none belong in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I just pulled this up on my Disney Plus app, and I see them. Marvel Legacy movies, including X-Men, X2, Fantastic Four, The Wolverine, X-Men Days of Future Past, Fantastic Four, The Abomination, and X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah, everything that's not Avengers related, minus that Hulk one.
Right.
Wait. Is that they don't have? Either.
No, they don't have any Hulk.
Yeah, they don't have either of the Hulk movies on there.
Nope. It's a shame because, I mean, I guess you don't really have to watch The Incredible Hulk to understand how Thunderbolt Ross fits in,
Right.
But it's still, I think, helpful. It would be helpful to have it.
Well, plus the after credit scene where
right.
is definitely a thing that kicks it all off.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's out there. Actually, I had not looked at that myself, but I'm like, well, I already knew where this was going anyway. So it's basically all the X stuff and everything else, like Agent 70 said. So that's kind of amusing, but I'm hoping they did that in service of bringing in the older movies also, like that first trash. Well, the other first trash Fantastic Four movie, the Captain America movie, maybe that old.
I was about to say the first Fantastic Four movies here, they don't have Silver Surfer.
No. The Corman one from the 90s.
Oh, the Corman one.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I'm talking about. Like all those old ones, like the Incredible Hulk series and that TV movie where Thor showed up. All that old shit. Which they don't have any Incredible Hulk on there at all. Actually, now that I think about that. I mean, except for the animated one from the 90s, but.
think it's all Universal.
Yeah.
I would add that anyone who is on Disney Plus, it turns out they just updated this, I think this week, or I just haven't bothered to open up the Marvel section for a little while because I own all these movies.
Right.
But they've created a watch order for Phase 1
They
and
did
Phase
that.
2 and Phase 3.
Yeah, they did that a while ago. Even that list
And you
seems.
can watch it in timeline order now too.
Well, some of that still seems
No,
kind
it
of.
says timeline order.
I know, but some of that still seems kind of off in a couple of places to me. But yeah, that's been because remember I think we talked about it when they said they had. I want to say it was like shortly after they separated the X-Men into their own stuff, or supposedly it separated, and I think I remember seeing it like somewhere around then where they had that, or shortly after then.
Right. I just haven't opened the app to this particular section in a while, so it's interesting to see that they have done this for people who are trying to view things in certain order.
Right, and it's cool because they, if I'm not mistaken, unless they've changed it, they even have like the animated stuff in that particular timeline, also as well as the movies and such. And it's kind of cool, but like I feel like a couple of them seem like it's kind of out of order, especially around the Fantastic Four stuff, but I could be wrong. Who knows? Anyway, Disney Plus's Lego Star Wars Holiday Special adds Kelly Marie Tran, Billy D. Williams, and more people with 3 names. I added that last part myself, which is not true though. Disney's upcoming Lego Star Wars Holiday Special has cast several franchise mainstays to reprise their roles. The aforementioned Kelly Marie Tran, Billy D. Williams, but also, of course, Anthony Daniels, Matt Lantner, Tom Kane, James Arnold Taylor, and D. Baker Bradler, who those last few names you know of from the Clone Wars specifically, will all participate in the special, lending their voices to their respective live action and animated Star Wars characters. And, you know, we'll just get a press release after that. So that's good news. It sounds like we get a little bit of a synopsis of what the special is going to entail also. And judging by what I'm reading here, it's a Star Wars holiday special. Maybe will possibly be a little bit better than the original one. Who's to say? But it's also Lego, so who's to say? Next up.
All right, next up. So, Star Wars Obi-Wan show is going to start filming in March of 2021, hopefully. Kenobi, the highly anticipated Obi-Wan standalone series for Disney Plus, centered on actor Ewan McGregor's return to the Star Wars universe, is set to start shooting in March 2021, according to its star. The confirmation comes about a month after McGregor revealed a slightly less specific timeline, letting slip that Kenobi would shoot sometime in the spring. It's currently planned as a one-season only event series. It's going to take place sometime between the end of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, which Roddykat just watched, when Obi-Wan can be seen bringing baby Luke Skywalker to his aunt and uncle on Tatooine, and the one that started it all, Episode 4, A New Hope.
Yep, and therefore puts it before Rogue One and Rebels.
Right.
And
or during Rebels.
Yes. It depends on when in that time, because I think Rebels is more closer to Rogue One. As a matter of fact, it's specifically before Rogue One in the case, because
Rogue One goes right into New Hope. So
exactly, and we see some people before right, and we see some people before that.
Right, we might see a reference to something in Rebels. We might
possibly.
You never know.
Yeah.
We do see Ezra. You know, Ezra does find Obi at some point. So
true, but again, yeah. But whether this is before even all of that, you know, and if it's like you're saying directly after of Episode 3, and I guess wherever, because I know season 7 of Clone Wars, which I still hadn't gotten to yet, but I'm closer.
Oh no, that's right. I just spoiled something.
No, you did. Yeah, I wasn't even paying attention, so it's fine.
Thanks.
You know, sometimes you
think that has to do with Rebels.
Well, exactly. Bringing that up kind of just like filter has to go up, you know, because of that. And I think I probably was spoiled on some of it already, so and I've just kind of blocked it out.
Think you finished it already?
No, I'm closer than what I
So
was.
I was about to say I can still go back to poking fun at you for not having watched that yet. Jeez,
I
man.
mean, again, I'm closer than what I was. If you've been watching my tweet, well, I haven't tweeted about it in about a week or two or so, but I have been updating my my hashtag Clone Wars rewatch.
Right. We all know that Roddykat does not binge things the way I binge them. So.
He very much does not, the way anybody apparently binges things, but and that's fine. You know, everybody's pace is their own. So, but yeah, here's where we are with this Obi-Wan show. We'll see where that happens when it ever comes out. And that whole one season thing, I mean, I feel like this one is probably closer to being that case than not. But at the same time, I feel like in cases like, I guess like Star Trek Picard, to being on the other side of the aisle, you know, they had claimed it was a one season thing, but apparently there's a season 2 coming. So who's to say that this is going to continue to be the one season case that they're saying right now?
That's probably the one thing that's definitely not set in stone, unless, you know, McGregor's schedule doesn't allow for it. So.
Right. But I'm sure they'd probably work around that and it'll just come later, you know.
All right.
And speaking of, we're on the cusp of The Mandalorian coming out in a couple of weeks, in a few short weeks. So yeah. Next up, though, Disney developing Space Mountain movie from Obi-Wan Kenobi writer. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to say about that, but hoping to replicate this huge success of its Pirates of the Caribbean series. Disney is about to convert another of its iconic rides from its park into a film franchise. Haunted Mansion says, hey, which that wasn't a franchise and probably didn't necessarily need to be a movie. But regardless, Disney has recently announced that it is working on a movie based on the Space Mountain ride, as reported by Hollywood Reporter. Joby Harold has been enlisted as screenwriter and co-producer. The film would also be produced by Safe House Pictures, the production company operated by Harold and his wife, Tori Tunnell, as well as Dan Lin and Jonathan Irick's production studio, Rideback. Okay. Next up
in Take It With a Grain of Salt news, Spider-Man 3, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield casting rumors have been debunked by Sony. Sony Pictures apparently has debunked this rumor in a statement too. As I scroll through this story, let's see. In a statement to ET Canada, of all things, a representative of Sony Pictures said those rumored castings are not confirmed. Studios don't always comment on casting rumors, but in this case, Sony has debunked the currently circulating rumors about Maguire and Garfield. Interesting that they would tell this to ET. I'm assuming that's Entertainment Tonight Canada, our home and native land. So, you know, that's my big reason for not for not, you know, for taking this with a huge grain of salt.
Sure. Yeah, and we talked about it before the show that it's like, yeah, we don't know if that's, you know, if we could take it for what we believe or for what they say, because there's been times where they've not. So, yeah, next up, sorry, I was putting another story in that I totally forgot to put in. But while we're doing that, oops, did I mess that up just then? No, I did not. Cool, yay! Green Lantern 10-part series sets Arrow co-creator as writer. HBO Max is moving forward with the Green Lantern TV show from Arrowverse executive producer Greg Berlanti, who's, you know, give somebody else a show or a chance to produce some stuff maybe, but, you know, I get it. Warner Media has made a big splash last year when revealing their first slate of DC TV shows. With Berlanti's track record in producing multiple DC TV shows, the producer revealed that he's working on Strange Adventures as well as a series centered on the Green Lantern mythology. Make that money, I guess. Details have been extremely limited ever since the announcement has been made at the Warner Media events. Over this year, they have slowly begun to reveal various details on what fans can look forward to with this latest iteration of the Emerald Knight. And I will go ahead and take this next one because it's slightly
Sure, because this guy's annoying if you ever watch Pacific Rim. So I think he's perfect casting.
Pacific Rim's Kaczynski wants to play Guy Gardner. So with HBO Max's Green Lantern television series on the way, Pacific Rim's Robert Kaczynski has expressed interest in playing everyone's favorite insufferable jerk with a green power ring and a heart of gold. I don't know about that. Guy Gardner. I don't often talk about jobs I want. I usually just go about quietly not getting them. But yeah, been talking about this asshole for a decade. Kaczynski wrote on Twitter alongside an image featuring a side-by-side comparison between him and Guy Gardner. What was he in Pacific Rim? Or who was he in Pacific Rim?
He was he ends up dying with Idris Elba's character at the end, but he was a pilot with he was a pilot of a Jaeger with his father.
Oh. Wait, I thought, is this that guy?
Yeah, that's the guy.
I thought there was another dude. Okay.
No, he ends up pilot. He pilots one of the Jaegers with his father, and then when they get down to the final battle,
Right.
he has to sacrifice himself. He sacrifices himself together with Idris Elba's character.
Right. Okay, I was totally thinking it was somebody else. So, okay. Cool beans. But anyway, yeah, sure. I'll go along with that assertion also. Next up.
Right, next up, in an article from Screen Rant that actually, believe it or not, references a report from our very own Tim Adams over at CBR.com. Titans, Young Justice, and Stargirl have gotten HBO Max debut dates. HBO Max revealed the debut dates for these three former DC Universe series: Titans Season 2, Young Justice, Outsiders, and Stargirl Season 1. Young Justice Outsiders, Season 2 of Titans and Young Justice Outsiders, its second season, debut on November 1st, which is coming shortly, with Season 1 of Stargirl, that is, debuting December 1st, which was on the CW. So you'll have a chance to see that on HBO Max very soon. Shout out to Tim, whose article has been cited by Screen Rant.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Adding to his citations that I joked him about last week, I think. Now that I think about it. Let's see. Next up, as I'm trying to get the thing in order here. Oh crap! I didn't do the thing I said I was going to.
What happened?
What happened? Let's see. Hang on, I'm trying to get the thing.
What happened was
you're going to see some juggling around live here, folks. So bear with me here as I do this thing. Yep. Spoilers for an article or two that is about to be talked about. That I apparently forgot to put in the lineup, or not that I forgot to put in. That I forgot to put in prior to. There was one other I was looking for, and now I can't find it. So I'll look for that in a second. But the Stargirl showrunner offers update to season 2 progress. Stargirl showrunner Jeff Johns gives an update on season 2's production. After first being created for the DC Universe streaming service, Stargirl has made its broadcast premiere on the CW in May. Which, wow, I didn't think it. Totally forgot it's been that long also for that. The series follows teenager Courtney Whitmore, Brett Basinger, who lives a normal life until discovers a powerful cosmic staff. You know what? Some of y'all know what Stargirl is, and probably been watching the show. We don't necessarily have to go through that. But in early July, Stargirl was renewed for season 2, following positive reviews from fans and critics. I know someone personally who was like really, really over the moon about it. So I'm like, all right, calm down. What's more, the show will leave DC Universe entirely and will air exclusively on the CW. Stargirl season 1 came to an end in August, and since then fans have been waiting for updates on what can expect the next part of Courtney's story. With so many 2020 productions being impacted by COVID-19 pandemic, some have wondered if Stargirl could be similarly affected, especially since the CW's other DC shows have faced some setbacks. And it sounds like during Comic-Con, Jeff Johns touched upon where production is for season 2. And he gives a statement below, which you can read for yourself in this article. This is in the show notes, which will be, linked to. There you go. Next up.
Alrighty. Next up, Chantel Van Santen opens up about her truncated Flash run. Apparently, the showrunner put her on a train all of a sudden. So this actress who was on The Flash briefly as CCPD Officer Patty Spivot to create kind of a love triangle between herself, Barry Allen, and Iris West, got shepherded out of the show rather abruptly in season 2. And apparently it may have been due to one of the showrunners, Andrew Kreisberg, who was one of the Flash's season 2 showrunners, who was fired by Warner Brothers in November 2017 in the wake of numerous allegations of sexual harassment and inappropriate physical contact. So it may have been because of one of these showrunners, this showrunner or another showrunner, but at the end of the day, I think she's in a better place because she is on The Boys. I don't know if you've been watching The Boys, but she is doing all right. Although I think they treated her character a little bit wrongly this particular season.
Huh. Go figure. A female character's being treated badly. Yeah, I think I heard a little bit about it, and I did know she was on The Boys, but I haven't been watching it. And in fact, we have more Boys news coming up in a second. But yeah, I have heard that she was on there and some of the treatment issues or whatever, or how her character's been treated rather.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, on that, let's see. Boop. There we go. Speaking of, The Boys, spoiler for every character who died during the spoiler attack. So apparently there was a big, I'm going to just put it out here not knowing if that's the case or not, a big red wedding type attack.
Kind of.
Some would say.
Mm-hmm.
That just happened in a recent episode, and a bunch of super folks died, including, matter of fact, I'm going to tie in the next article into the zone because it is related. So, did you watch this first of all?
Yes, I watched it all.
Okay, so you already know, but just in case people haven't, we're not going to spoil it. But yeah, there was an attack in a place, not unlike also. Well, I don't know because I'm not watching. So I was going to say like Batman v Superman, but that's not the case because that was just a. Oh, was it?
Kinda.
But yeah, so that was an attack in a setting, and from what this sounds like, and a bunch of super people got dealt with, including the fact that the Boy showrunner regrets killing that soup. So apparently, one of the superpowered folks that got killed off was a recent addition to the show, I believe. One that some folks would know from another show, and also being the twin of another superhero, or another person who played the superhero.
Mm-hmm.
If that gives you any idea who that might be, I would go ahead and say 1, watch Killjoys, and 2, damn, Iceman. Anyway, apparently that character got killed off, and the showrunner regrets killing them for some odd reason, which I will not read.
Well, I would say that, in my opinion, I felt like even though it seemed like that character was definitely going to meet an end sooner rather than later, he did bring a pretty good characterization to the role. So, gotcha. Alrighty. So
wow,
next.
I wish I could remember. See, just a little behind the scenes, like sometimes when getting these articles, they're timed or they're gotten at a time, and sometimes the stuff on the side is no longer there when you delete said link and try to bring it back up because they've changed this thing out, which means that something I was going to pull up for the show is not there anymore, or I can't find out where it is and I don't remember what it is. So that's so that's cool. But if I do find it, I'll either bring it up or whatever the case may be. Next up, though.
All right, next up, Aftershock Comics has announced plans for a merger with a TV film distribution company with a new umbrella name for the combined company, Aftershock Media. Aftershock has had TV and film development since its inception in 2015, but this merger with the distribution company Rive Gauche will allow this new combined company to better leverage Aftershock's comic book properties more in TV, film, gaming, and podcasts. See? Podcasts. What a medium.
Yeah, who'd have thunk it?
That's so funny.
So yeah, synergizing that brand, doing all that good stuff, which is probably a good and a bad thing because it's good for them, definitely, to branching off, but it's also like, we already got a glut of comic book based TVs and movies, and the cynical part of me feels like, okay, well, this is just another way for them to churn stuff out there in service of that. Which is not necessarily has to be the case, mind you, but that's like I said. But when I first read this, it was like, yeah, that was the cynical part of me thinking that. But it is what it is. We'll see how that turns out. Next up, Doctor Who theory. I guess the Agent 70 is probably glad that I got this one. River Song's regenerations explain the timeless child. So spoiler alerts, I guess, for folks who would be interested in this, and but River Song could be the key to Doctor Who's timeless child retcon. Doctor Who is the longest running sci-fi science fiction TV show in the world, but current showrunner Chris Chibnall has dared to rewrite its lore, and a bunch of people have done that to various degrees of success in the past, but in Doctor Who Season 12, he revealed that the Doctor is in fact the timeless child, a being who emerged from some sort of rift or boundary in time and space and become the base genetic code for the entire Time Lord race. So if you're paying attention to what that is saying, he basically, the Doctor in whatever various form birthed their own race. Now, comics is crazy. Doctor Who, granted, you can say that's some comics, that's some comic like
yeah, right?
That is some definitely comic like of retconning there going on. But anyway, the revelation has dramatic consequences. It effectively means that the Doctor is over 1 billion years old, older than the Time Lord civilization itself, and like I said, what I just said, and that she has unlimited regenerations, which is another thing that had been retconned in past seasons to varying degrees. Anyway, never again need the Doctor worry about coming to the end of her. I'm just going to say there because it could be a man or a woman, or some non-binary component therein, but of their regeneration cycle, meaning Doctor Who can really go on forever, which they were going to do that regardless. Never again need the Doctor worry about coming to the end. And I said that can go on forever without needing a boost from the Time Lords, because if folks recall, I believe it was Moffat or somebody had said the Doctor's got 13 generations, and they had even gotten messed around with at a certain point in time, including the 8th Doctor / War Doctor type situation. But it's a whole thing, man. I love Doctor Who, but it's a whole thing. Anyway, the retcon has a massive impact on Doctor Who lore, fittingly surprisingly well with the classic series, but clashing rather with some plots from the 2005 relaunch. In truth, that makes sense because Chibnall is an old school Doctor Who fan who apparently came up with the concept of the Timeless Child back in the 80s when he was tuning in to the Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy adventures on TVs. But basically, long story short, River Song may fit into how this retcon goes a little bit more than maybe intentioned, and even contradict some stuff. So, but you can read that for yourself. You know, all you Whovians out there. Next up, and I'm sure Agent 7 is glad he's gotten this. Well, not necessarily, but
Yeah, I read about this. So apparently, we all know that this has been in the news for a while. Animaniacs is coming back on Hulu, but apparently, the original creative behind Animaniacs, or at least one of them. And my understanding is that they didn't bring any of the original writers or creators back. They brought the voice actors back, though. Animaniacs creator Tom Ruegger, along with the rest of the original writing team, have not been invited back to the revival series, and he's apparently not happy about it.
understandably so. Hey, you know what? Might as well take the next one. Go for it.
All right. Next up, the return for Animaniacs.
No!
And it was announced at New York Comic Con, New York, whatever they called New York Comic Con this year, online. They revealed the cold open for Hulu's upcoming revival of Animaniacs. Steven Spielberg's zany 1990s love letter to the Looney Tunes of the golden age of animation. The clip aired as part of a New York Comic Con panel on the upcoming series, which premieres on November 20th, just 6 days after the 22nd anniversary of the original show's finale. Oh, did I just have to read that? 22nd anniversary. It brims with everything fans of the original series came to expect from the show. Sly pop culture references galore, a healthy disregard for the fourth wall, clean vectored outlines, and a sense of humor about the world and the show itself. Now in widescreen format. It's hysterical. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, you really should watch this.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. And I saw some comments I saw some comments under the tweet for this, and of course there are people like, well, no, that doesn't mean it's good. The vector lines should be the old classic. I'm like, shut up, please shut up. Just be happy the thing is back. Just shut up, all right?
In all honesty, what they really needed was the voice talent. Once they secured the voice talent,
yeah,
they're good to roll. They're good to roll.
Yeah. I mean, like, I would have been more upset if they hadn't gotten the voice talent back.
Right.
You know, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people would have, because that's just been a very terrible oversight, because all these people are still, well, I know at least a couple of them, most of them are still working, so.
Correct.
But yeah, definitely check out the teaser for it. It's pretty great. You have to love it. And if you don't, you have no soul.
Yeah.
So we got
it's
those
got a Jurassic Park theme too, which is pretty cool. The Jurassic Park theme.
Exactly.
It's so on the nose too. Like, I think I saw Jurassic Park on cable the other day just for like a few minutes, and it was very close to the scene that they sort of parody.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt like I'd seen it, just to kind of refresh my memory of what happens during that part of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, so you almost did what I did with that Darth Vader book.
Almost. I happened to cross it on cable. I don't own it in any sort of home media though. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, next up,
what the hell is this story? Please go on.
Yeah, so I just saw this as we were talking earlier, which sometimes happens, but apparently Tatiana Maslany, who starred in Ultra and Black as Sarah Manning from 2013 to 2017, watched that show. It's actually pretty good, at least from the very little bit that I've seen of it. Denied being cast in the titular role for Disney Plus's live-action She-Hulk series. Quote, that actually isn't a real thing, and it's like a press release that's gotten out of hand. Maslany told the Sudbury Star Thursday morning in reference to her portraying Jennifer Walters. It's totally not. I've been connected to these things in the past, and press has gotten into it, but it's actually not a thing, unfortunately. When pressed, Maslany continued to deny the casting. Yeah, I don't know how these things get. I don't know. You know better. I have no idea. So she's not playing She-Hulk?
What are we supposed to make of this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Did the Marvel snipers come out on somebody? What?
doesn't seem likely to have come out like that, because I'm like, I feel like if it was something that was, I mean, yes, the press kind of ran with it, but I felt like it kind of, and I don't recall actually seeing anything directly from Marvel, but we've seen like people around it, and including up into like MCU characters, wishing well. So you would think, well, they may or may not be privy to that, and probably just find out when everybody else did. But so I can't really say on that point. And even this article even noted the people that is that is on that side that
commented, right?
Yeah, those comments on it. So I don't know what to make of this. This is kind of crazy if that's the case. This will be a first also that hasn't come through. I kind of hope that this is some sort of elaborate ruse, because I think she would actually be pretty good at it.
I don't have an opinion because I'm not all that familiar with her. It's just, you wonder, it's like, whoa, the Marvel snipers are out there somewhere.
Maybe, but that doesn't seem like should be the case in this particular, thing. I don't know. Yeah.
That's weird.
But I'll just say continuing developments will as we find out things, we'll see how this plays out. So, but that is it for the cinematic news. I was going to try to go out on that animated Animaniacs one, but I didn't move things around in time.
We'll transition into the comic book news then?
Absolutely. The baddest Green Lantern just destroyed, boy, people are hyperbolic, DC's worst Superman with one punch. So this is looks like this is spoilers for Death Metal Multiverses End #1, which is apparently already out. I think this may have come out, last week or week before last or something?
Right.
I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, let's see, let's skip.
I think it was the week before last.
Probably. But apparently Guy Gardner must have punched out a Superman one punch, like what happened to him all those years ago back in Justice League International, which is still an iconic moment. So, yeah. That's enough to say about that. I don't like Guy Gardner as it is, so whatever. Next up.
All right. This is interesting. Nightwing breaks out a classic costume for the first time in years. So this happened during, trying to see what issue this was in.
Justice League 54.
That's why I missed it, because I did not read Justice League 54. Oh, okay. So this is a Dark Knight's Death Metal tie-in.
Excellent.
Right. Nightwing is confronted with his entire costume history in a matter of seconds through a sudden telepathic attack. Wow, so at some point he's breaking out all of the costumes, including Disco Nightwing.
Apparently.
That's wild, yo. That's so funny.
Yeah.
So, it's the first time Dick Grayson's been seen wearing many of these outfits in quite a few years, honoring the character's past, as Death Metal continues to forge a new future for the DC Universe.
Excellent!
Love it. So there we go. We got that coming up the pike. Superboy just made the end of the DC Universe even worse. This is spoilers for Deceased Hope at World's End #11, which came out this week, or which I think must have come out last week, because of when I got the story. But one thing the survivors in DC's Deceased Hope at World's End are finding out is that things can always get worse. In previous issues, Wally West, Max Mercury, Jesse Quick, and Bart Allen Impulse used the cosmic treadmill to rip a hole in space and go to a different Earth free from the infection. Just as the survivors thought there might be a glimmer of hope against the anti-life virus, the world has certainly turned. The world's turned upside down. Anyway.
That's a Hamilton reference.
And an infected Black Adam and Hawkman emerge with an army of the infected. The heroes scramble to defend the survivors, but almost instantly one of the strongest heroes, Atom Smasher, is infected by Black Adam. In Deceased Hope at World's End, Superboy and Wonder Girl in trying to save everyone and inadvertently make things worse. And if you are remotely interested in how that is and don't want to be spoiler, you can read it for yourself. This is kind of one of those situations where, like, just like in Injustice kind of got to, it was like, yeah, the first book was book that the thing that started it off, and then all these other side books started coming out. I mean, the kind of a similar thing is felt like is going on with this. No strength, no surprise that this is like Tom Taylor and Comprint. Not saying that that part is directly tied, but I'm just saying, like, okay, you know, this whole deceased thing was good when it first came out, but all this whole glut of other side books that happened to come out from it, I'm like, I just kind of dropped off of it. Granted, I'm not a big zombie person anyway, but still, like I said, I enjoyed Deceased enough to be like, all right, I had to read a little bit more of this, and I feel like I didn't expressly say that in coming off of that series, and I did read a couple of it, but then they started making more and more books. So, yeah. But now we get into the, I guess, what we could be considered the big news of the week.
Yeah. I was about to say, I'll take the lead story. We can alternate the next two stories.
Sure.
Thank you to our very own @TimDog98 with the byline here on CBR.com. DC Future State promises a brand new DC universe in 2021. Fans are getting a glimpse into the future of the DC universe in DC Future State, a line-wide event beginning January 2021, featuring all new heroes. DC has announced that the fallout from Dark Knight's death metal will lead to DC Future State, a 2-month line-wide event beginning in January 2021. February will feature a combination of monthly and twice-monthly oversized anthologies, as well as a monthly schedule of miniseries and one-shots starring current and future DC heroes. All new characters will take on the iconic mantles of fan-favorite heroes in DC Future State, with new series launching with creative talent from the worlds of TV, movies, and animation. March 2021 will see DC's normal publishing lineup return, continuing existing storylines from 2020 and introducing new arcs for the year. DC executive editor Marie Javins said in a statement, "The DC universe has always been fertile ground for new and refreshing takes on our characters, and DC Future State definitely contributes to this legacy."
That word.
I was about to say, in my estimation, this is just DC 5G under a different name or a different, internet speed.
I mean, this is. I mean, I feel like this has been pretty much people's estimation of it, period. Because I feel like even we talked about it when they said they were giving up on the 5G stuff and announced this coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Even with what little we knew then, it feels like they were pretty much restructuring 5G into this.
Right. I mean, we're even getting, like some of the stuff that had been talked about as being canceled, because it looks like John Ridley, the award-winning screenwriter from 12 Years a Slave, is getting his, I believe it's a Batman book coming out.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about that already, but yes.
Right. So it's coming back, like what had been canceled is now coming back. And, as we mentioned earlier, this is just going to be, 5G by a different name.
Pretty much. And with that, like, this is kind of a combination of, this feels like a combination of, well, one, what Marvel's Generation event sounds seemingly like, but also, they take notes from each other quite constantly, so it's not like a surprise, even if that was the case.
Right. Also,
from what DC has done in the past, restructure, with the mini crises and trying to redo things.
I was going to add that what this reminded me of, obviously, is very different in terms of what their goals in telling their stories are, but this reminded me of, and I said this in our back channel chat, when Marvel stopped publishing all X books and instead put out all the Age of Apocalypse books. So
yes,
I remember how jarring that was for a hardcore X collector like myself. I'm really wondering what this is going to be like for people, and I know that they exist. I'm not one of them, but people who are hardcore DC collectors.
I feel like we have.
dabble
since.
here and there, and then take a break from everything else until everything starts back up again in 2 months.
I feel like we have we have gotten one opinion on it from someone, and I can't say that I wasn't surprised by that perspective from
Right.
this person. There's always the folks who think leave well enough alone on the other side of that also. So I'm sure there's going to be some people like that, even without anything of this actually have come into pass. Like we haven't seen anything from it outside of what we're getting right now, so we don't even know what any of this is entailing as far as actual stories and how they're treating it. So we can't say until we get to that point on a lot
Right.
of this. But the lines are pretty much being drawn in how they're handling this, and the DC definitely has less compunction or restraint, let's say, about going from event to event, like Marvel has supposedly been said to do with their, like, hey, no line wise for 16 months, even though it doesn't feel like it because they got events going to events, they go to events that go into the big stuff.
They've got events that may not be line wide, but they're definitely far reaching.
Exactly.
I would just add before we move on to our next stories concerning this future state that the event is going to be split into Batman, Superman, and Justice League family of titles consisting of oversized comics, monthly miniseries, and one-shots.
Correct, which we will get into
This
some
is
of that.
all going to start January 2021.
Right, which we will get into some of that with this next story, in that DC's Future State introduces an extended Batman family. So DC's Future State will feature big changes across the board for the DC universe, including the expansion of the Bat family as if it really needed it. That's my...
Holy cow, that's a long list.
Yep. According to DC, in this future, Gotham City is controlled by the Magistrate, in caps. This villainous regime has taken control of the city, now under constant surveillance. All masked vigilantes have been outlawed, and Batman has been killed, but led by an all-new Batman, which is probably going to be Damian. An all-new assembly of Gotham's guardians rise to give hope to all who have lost it, unquote. And
Okay.
yes, as Agent 70 just alluded to, there's a bunch of books slated, including a bunch of oversized books, which have been listed here with the creative teams. And you can see some of the covers for them right now. Some miniseries also, and just a bunch of books coming down the pike from this stuff. So if you thought 52 had a whole bunch of books, if you thought Convergence had a whole bunch of books, this is probably not going to be as gluttonous as Convergence. But still, there's a lot of books.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just for the Batman corner
Right.
from what I just scrolled to. So we get to the next one.
Right. The next one is the Superman family. According to DC, due to his involvement in an international crisis happening in the near future, Clark Kent has been rejected by Earth, causing him to focus his life-saving efforts outside his adopted home. He travels to Warworld to rise through the ranks of gladiatorial combat in order to defeat Mongol with the help of some unlikely heroes. Thor Ragnarok much?
World War Hulk much? I mean, Planet Hulk much, rather?
Right. But like I said, that's kind of Ragnarok-y.
Well, yeah, sure, on the MCU side of things, yeah.
Yeah, with the help of some unlikely heroes. Back in Metropolis, Clark's son John has taken on the mantle of Superman. After seeing the horrors that befell Gotham, he bottles Metropolis in order to keep it safe, putting him at odds with Supergirl.
Yeah, that's going to go well with that.
Oh, gosh.
So, yes, as you can tell, there's this thing of legacy, not unlike Marvel's, kind of unlike Marvel's generation thing, but definitely there's a thing of legacy going on with this, which I'm sure is going to, piss off some longtime fans of DC, because why can't it be Bruce Wayne? But some of them are still like, well, it's Jonathan, not some, person of color that they have a problem with, or woman. But there, I'm sure there'll still be some focus. And again, Jonathan has become Superman in that DC's thing, but because that's other worlds or Elseworlds situation, I'm sure people don't take that, lend any credence to it. So But yeah, regardless, this is we're seeing some of the strokes on DC's future state from this line, and of course with the last article, there's a list of comics that are coming down the line.
Right. It looks like Mr. Miracle and Wonder Woman have been folded into the Superman corner of this reboot of this.
Right, and that was what I was about to mention. I was like, I questioned that, but okay, sure.
Right. So I think it's funny that they're calling one of the books, or two of the books, Immortal Wonder Woman.
I know, right?
So
and Newbie is going to get a book. You know, and of course, like Agent 70 said, like that whole folding of Wonder Woman onto this thing is kind of weird. Which you would think, as a member of the Trinity, she would have either had her own or would have been under the Justice League books, which I don't think I have.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
What I thought. I thought she would have been under the Justice League banner.
Right. But yeah, as you can see, as I'm scrolling, if you're watching the video, I'm scrolling through the covers and the creative teams of this book. Hey, that's a nice cover right there. Apparently Wonder Woman's going to get a new suit also. So I don't see anything on the Justice League set of books, but maybe the information's not out there yet, or I'm past that point. So we'll see Planet Superman and whatever the Batman was. I can't think of a correlation with the Marvel side of that in 2021. But last but not least, on that part, on the future state part.
What's that?
This next one's also, well, actually, yeah, it is actually the next story.
The next story, I only see we did Batman and Superman.
Yeah, but there's another one right after that is also tied to future state.
The Teen Titans cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Red X, an original character, I remember this, created for Cartoon Network's Teen Titans animated series, is going to make his DC Comics debut during DC Future State, what we just talked about. February will feature a combination of monthly and twice monthly oversized anthologies, blah, blah, blah. So a teaser image for DC Future State by artist Dan Mora features Red X in the background among all new heroes and different versions of familiar icons, such as Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and more. Okay.
Yep. And I just found the story that I was looking for. Well, not the story I was looking for. This is a whole totally different. But as far as the DC Future State for the last pillar of that being the Justice League stuff, I just found that article. Shout out to Tim also who did this. So he must have, I guess he did all of those. Yeah.
No, he didn't do the Batman and Superman one. He just did the main one.
No, he did. Well, he did this Teen Titan ones, and he's also doing this next one that I'm bringing up, the Justice League ones.
Oh, okay. Right. No, but he did not write the
Gotcha.
Batman and Superman ones.
Okay. But shout out to Tim regardless. Anyway, so DC Future State features an all-new Justice League of legacy heroes. Again, not unlike all new Marvel. But anyway, getting ahead of ourselves. An all-new Justice League team of legacy heroes will make their debut during DC Future State, as we've already mentioned about what that's going to be about. The Justice League of DC Future State will have their secret identities hidden from each other, with a first issue cover featuring new takes on Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Flash, Green Lantern, and Aquaman. Other titles under the Justice League family of DC Future State includes Justice League Dark, and I'm going to put this in the Skype chat for Agent 70 until I get it into the show notes proper, so you can take a look at that. But let's see, other titles under the Justice League family for DC Future State include Justice League Dark, Swamp Thing, Shazam, Teen Titans, and Suicide Squad, which probably makes sense why Teen Titans, or another reason why Teen Titans ending recently makes a little bit more sense, because they're pretty much getting ready for this stuff. So, and of course, you can see, just like the other two articles, you can see the oversized comics list and the other stuff that is being listed with their creative teams. So there's Justice League Dark, some Green Lantern stuff, Suicide Squad, the Flash, Aquaman, who looks to be Calderon, or is that Jackson Hyde? It could be one or the other. I don't know.
No, I think it's Cal. It looks like Cal.
Well,
because of the
yeah,
hair.
but they also put I believe they gave Jackson those tattoos also. So,
Oh, okay.
so it could very well be one or the other. I'm not entirely sure. And given the way that looks, it could very well be Jackson. But I don't know that for certain. Regardless, Teen Titans. Wait, looks like Nightwing's gonna be back with the group. Which sure, Shazam, Swamp Thing, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, there goes the last pillar of those books.
The future state. Okay.
Yeah. Again, show notes. You can check all of that out at your leisure. So next up.
All right, next up, Swamp Thing. He makes your heart sing.
Oh no.
The following story contains spoilers for the story Ring of Stones from The Legend of the Swamp Thing Halloween Spectacular by Philip Kennedy Johnson, Dominique Domo Stanton, Jeremiah Skipper, and Dave Sharp on sale now. Did this come out this week or last week?
Maybe this week. I'm not actually no, because I don't think it maybe it came out last week. I don't remember either way, honestly, because we don't have it.
Hold on, Swamp Thing. I have Comic List open, so.
Oh, actually, it might have come out well before now.
Check out DC Swamp Thing. Yeah, it's not this week.
Because it might have come out prior to this. But I don't honestly know.
It's Legend of the Swamp Thing. Hold on. I was looking at the wrong Legend.
Or this is one of those ones that came out in Walmart, but it doesn't say here.
I definitely don't see it in this week's list of books. So, but I can always check last week's and just double check.
Ring, 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 ring of stones.
That's so funny. Hold on, DC. It was last week. Legend of the Swamp Thing Halloween Spectacular came out last week.
Yeah, okay. I just looked it up on Comixology. So.
So Swamp Thing is one of the older forces for good in the DC universe. It's got deep roots in the old world. It turns out there was an ancient version of Swamp Thing that actually bonded itself with one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries, Stonehenge. Okay.
Sure.
Jolly old England. So, all right. Have fun with that, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Shout out to Domo Stanton, who's getting more work. He's a young cat doing some things.
All right.
Let's see. Pull that one for next week. But next up, Tom Taylor and John Samariva, I hope I pronounced that right, reimagined Peter Pan and Neverland in 2-book series for Penguin, Random House, and Glenette. Writer Tom Taylor and artist John Samariva are working together on a new graphic novel series, imagining a wartime Peter Pan called Neverlanders. The first of 2 planned volumes is scheduled to go on sale in summer of 2022 through Penguin Random House's Razorbill imprint for English audience and Glenette for French audiences. A quote-unquote a gritty modern fantasy tale set in the world of Peter Pan. This story follows a group of young runaways who have been spirited away by the last living lost boy, not to be confused with Mr. Cheeks and them. He's desperate for their help to save Neverland, which has become a war zone in Peter's absence. Read the synopsis of Neverlanders. Along with General Tinkerbell and her fairy army, these lost teens will have to face off against a merciless band of pirates until a new Pan has finally risen. Taylor and Samariva will be joined on Neverlanders by color artist Michelle Asarasakorn. I apologize if I messed that up. And letterer Wolfgang Belsima.
Simsima.
All right. So yeah,
talking about Jeeps, Lex, Coupes, Beamers. Oh no!
It all comes together. But yeah, so there you go. That's a thing. That's a thing that sounds like something that's probably going to be turned into an animated show or movie at some point in the near future. Stay tuned if that's exactly true. But next up,
All right, next up, we have a first look at baddies uniting as Thunderbolts battle the King in Black in latest Marvel event. So, based on some of the things that we've seen in not in oh I don't know, I guess we have seen them in solicits, but I think this is ahead of the most of the solicitations that would involve most of these. These are announcements pre-solicits. Um,
In
King in
fact,
Black
yeah,
is
a couple
going
of
to
this stuff is actually.
what's that?
I said, in fact, a couple of the. I believe the next one is also in that vein.
Right. This is ahead of the solicitation announcements, where King in Black, Roddykat and I were discussing this earlier, might have been off camera, but King in Black seems to be, I don't want to say reinvigorating, but definitely um, re maybe putting to use some of the creative teams that had books that were unceremoniously dumped because of Empire coming at hot on the heels of the pandemic.
Hmm.
So it seems like some of those books are now coming out under the banner of King in Black.
Possibly.
So so um so this article has an interview with Matthew Rosenberg, uh, the interviews with Matthew Rosenberg, who discusses the upcoming tie-in of Thunderbolts with King in Black. Um, it's a different group of Thunderbolts. Um, let's see here. I'm just scrolling through because it does look like they provide some interior looks, some pages, some interior pages.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm looking to see if there's a listing of characters that are involved in this particular. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, you can
This
see
time
them.
around, there's no difference. The team includes both villains like Taskmaster, Rhino, and Mr. Fear, and anti-heroes like Star and Batroc Zilipel.
Hmm. Star is an interesting one to be on that team, but I guess
Yeah, an actual Infinity Stone, unless she doesn't have it anymore. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe, hopefully, she doesn't end up like Sentry.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Batroc. All right. Cool.
So yeah, that is a thing. That's a thing that happened. I guess if we would say Suicide Squad, this would be Marvel's real answer to that. So to a point. So next up, continuing with some King in Black news, Marvel event King in Black expands in January with Gwenom and Black Knight specials, Planet of the Symbiotes mini. So yeah, basically there's a bunch more stuff coming under King in Black, including the aforementioned Black Knight one. Excuse me, a Gwenom mini, and looks like this has been updated to with that information. It says King in Black. Oh yeah, King in Black Gwenom versus Carnage is another seemingly one shot by Sinan McGuire and artist Flaviano that promises major consequences for the popular web slinger, quote unquote. Popular web slinger? Okay. See, the Black Knight book is coming, who is written by Simon Spurrier, drawn by Jesus Sayas. And it's called King of Black, Black Knight #1. And of course, he's fighting a dragon because he's a knight. And Planet of the Symbiotes mini. You know what? Who cares? And there's a couple of other ones. I honestly can't find myself caring that much about anything Venom. Much Venom. So if that has not become apparent, it load this many a time. But yes, there's some other stuff coming. King of Black, that's a thing. That is yet another event that is coming down the pipe very soon. And again, like I just already said, this was in advance of the January solicitations, which we'll probably get by next week or sometime, I'm sure, for some other stuff. But next up.
All right, next
In fact, you take both of these next two, actually.
Okay.
Because they're related.
All right, cool. Yeah, I see. I was actually looking at the webpage to see what they were talking about. Ryan Otley has announced his departure as the regular artist of Marvel Comics' ongoing Amazing Spider-Man series, a title he helped relaunch alongside current writer Nick Spencer in 2018. Otley drew the first chapter of the oversized Amazing Spider-Man number 49 slash 850, and that is now confirmed that that was his last work on the series. Otley said on his public Facebook fan page that it came down to him wanting to work on other projects. He worked on 20 or so issues. He didn't do all 50, but he definitely did 20 issues of those 50 issues that came out, or the 49 issues that came out, that is, because this week was 50. Let's see. Otley states that he's not done with Marvel Comics. In fact, he confirms he's already at work on his next unannounced project. Alrighty. No replacement has been announced for Otley as regular series artist. No replacement has been announced just yet. Well, we don't know if the
yeah,
next
we don't
story
necessarily know, but we know who's coming up next on the book. But I would just go ahead and put here that while Otley did say he decided to jump off, we all know that it was because of Agent 70. It's because
Hey man, listen. I got the juice, and don't come at me. Whatchamacallit? You come at the king, you best not miss, Ryan.
Making a joke at Agent 70's, not really caring that much for Otley's aunt during the course of this run in cases. But anyway,
I'm pretty glad that it's not going to be around any longer.
Won't be around next year.
Exactly.
But next
in related news, Mark Bagley is joining Amazing Spider-Man number 53 in an interior artist change. Bagley is going to draw Amazing Spider-Man 53 rather than announced artist Patrick Gleason. Bagley is famous for doing stuff very quickly, which, in my opinion, is to his detriment. I think he benefits from having more time and tighter pencils and tighter inks from whoever is inking him. The issue issue number 53 ties into the upcoming Last Remains arc that flows right out of issue 50 that came out this week. And I don't think Bagley is going to be doing the cover, which is already solicited. So,
right. I thought we had established that Gleason was going to be the. We know he's coming on to it because we've already seen it.
Right.
But I don't know if even as of that last article that has been established that he's going to be the main person that Gleason's going to be the main person on this book.
Right. I was about to say, even after Otley was essentially the primary artist on the book, they have brought in rotating art teams to make sure that the book came out sometimes at an accelerated double shipping schedule.
Right.
So.
And that doubled with the fact that they had other stuff, other one shots going along with it. They kind of needed.
I was gonna say, Amazing Spider-Man is no stranger to rotating artistic teams.
True. So yeah, there we go. Next up, though, speaking of Spidey, all the new Spider-Man comics, graphic novels collections coming from Marvel. So yeah, Spidey's always been the face of Marvel Comics for the past half century, and although other characters and teams like Iron Man, the Avengers, and the X-Men have nipped at his heels popularity, while this is Otto's assertion, Spider-Man is still Marvel's de facto flagship property. That's not true. I mean, that's not a lie. I guess. Anyway, the main Amazing Spider-Man title, just a milestone, 850 issues between all of the various rebooted volumes since his debut. Blah, 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 yakety schmackety. Hey, guess what? There's a whole bunch of Spidey books coming
this
along.
I was about to say, this looks like the solicits for upcoming Spidey.
It's advanced solicits. So some of the stuff we've already talked about being the Last Remains, Last Rites stuff, and some of the one-shots they're in. So that whole thing that we've kind of already talked about, the trade for Sins Rising, of course, Miles's book, a couple of issues of Miles's book. Let's see, some King and Black tie-ins. I'm trying to get back to Web of Spider-Man's coming back, or it's WEB of Spider-Man, I guess is they got it
Yeah,
here.
EB. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course they're even putting into the Marvel Action stuff, which is IDW books, which weirdly enough, but I guess that makes sense. So that looks like they're doing they're doing a hardcover of Kraven's Last Hunt.
Okay.
Yeah, and of course Epic Collections and McFarlane's Spider-Man. They're doing a trade of that. And a couple of omnibuses. I'm trying to get to where there's some other decent new stuff. But yeah, it looks like a bunch of omnibuses, and I thought there was going to be like some prose books or something in here, but I don't see that stuff. But basically, a whole bunch of collections and John Romita's Artisan Collection edition, hopefully with less issues than Claremont's recent one. But yeah, a bunch of Spidey books and collections coming about in the next coming time. Yay. Next.
Alrighty. I'm just scrolling for something I thought I just read that might be related to this. But I don't see it. I thought it was on CBR.com because I was scrolling through their news just recently, but maybe they just took it down. I don't know. But it's regarding this Miles Morales news. Is that comic or where's the video game stuff? Who knows? Anyway, getting back to this story.
This is definitely video game stuff.
Yeah, Miles Morales is giving its hero the sickest Spider-Man suit of all time and ditching the cops. Though Spider-Man Miles Morales is still set in the same universe as Insomniac's first Spider-Man video game, is very much meant to be the story of how, after training under Peter Parker, Miles is ready to break free and define his own legacy as one of New York City's protectors. A number of new details have come out in the latest print issue of Game Informer. Something about licking Boo Boo down. It features an amazing cover of Miles, illustrated by his co-creator and Ultimate Spider-Man artist Sarah Pacelli. Let's see here. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. It's looking for the sickest uniform thing.
So there's an image. There's an image of it down there.
Blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. All right. In addition to Miles' new support technology, the game's also giving him a bevy of new suits, like the gift suit, a gift from Peter Parker, another look that resembles the character's design in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and the 2020 suit, a costume featuring a Daft Punk-esque helmet, featured in an image that Roddykat is probably showing you, outfitted with LEDs that looks absolutely phenomenal. I saw an article, and I don't want to throw out hearsay because I thought I saw. Oh no, I did see. Here it is. I'm going to share the link with Roddykat because he would appreciate this. I'm going to put in the sheet and refresh our whatchamacallit, and refresh it. Let's see. I can paste. Listen to us as we work.
And all right, live recordings, folks. Gotta love it.
Okay, follow that link I put in the bottom. So apparently Miles Morales is dropping Air Jordans for Adidas in the new game, and fans are apparently not happy.
Really?
Yeah. So Nice Kicks, a website dedicated to sneaker culture and community, spotted a key difference in Miles' footwear in the video game previews that we've seen by comparing photos from both projects. In Spider-Verse, the hero is wearing Air Jordan, specifically what appears to be a pair of Chicago 1s. However, in the new game, he has switched brands, representing Adidas instead.
I assume sneakerheads, don't necessarily just stick to brands, but stick to styles or change styles when they're whatever. So I don't know. Whatever. But here's the point that I've been meaning to bring up, if I haven't already, since Into the Spider-Verse, and even aside of that. How the hell is he wall crawling in sneakers? Or Speeder for that Like, okay, yeah, the gloves one part, but he's in full ass sneakers, and we have totally seen him sticking to walls with said sneakers. We fairly, as far as we know, their powers don't just do like that. Like normally they're like touch base, direct touch base.
I blame Sony.
Because
I
that
blame
is the
Sony unless the sneakers are mad worn out, which is not implied. So,
but they wouldn't stick to walls. And again, we know the spider powers don't just like instantly magnetize to stuff, unless that's something like no one ever called any attention to that either. I would say I have never seen anyone call any attention to that, but that has been a thing that's kind of irked me since Into the Spider-Verse, and even in the even in Spider-Man in general, like in the in recent years, like. They're in full ass sneakers, wall crawling. Like how? Like I can think of a type of a way, but even then doesn't make any kind of sense. Especially when you see them just like standing there posing with full ass sneakers. I don't understand it. I don't understand.
You got me, man.
Yeah, but anyway, that's that's neither here nor there, I suppose. Comics, or so I'm sure somebody will be like, no, you're wrong. But I'm just thinking, like, yeah, like you're kind of saying, it's just like that's just a thing they just glossed over Into the Spider-Verse, and people have gone with it. Although, to be fair, that's kind of a thing that has happened before Into the Spider-Verse happened. Again, I don't think anybody's ever called attention to it. So, and I'm sure people are thinking I'm crazy for calling attention to it now. But regardless, this is a silly ass story. But thank you for bringing it up.
Next.
Exactly.
President Bartlett, please get us moving along.
What's next?
So we kind of already talked about this, but we didn't necessarily talk about this part about it, which I'm kind of glad I put this in the story in lineup. But a Marvel movie icon briefly becomes the new Sorcerer Supreme in this week's Avengers. So yeah, like I said, when we talked about this, so we didn't really talking about it, but basically, they get some, but. Yeah. The Avengers get some of the cleaved off powers from Khonshu and gave them to a couple of the other Avengers, aka Blade and She-Hulk, and they, as I call them, amalgamations of the characters, but it's not really the case. More like temporary power-ups, let's just say. So Blade ends up looks like the Eye of Agamotto and becomes. Supposedly that means he becomes the Sorcerer Supreme. Doesn't necessarily mean that, but that's what this article chooses to say. And She-Hulk ends up using some Iron Fist type techniques. Although we only see like a panel of either one of them doing anything with it. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing. I thought it was cute, but I think that was just a one and done, and that was it. So next up.
Right. In interesting news, Immortal Hulk writer Al Ewing says a very different spoiler alert is coming. So if you want to be spoiled, feel free to listen. If you don't want to be spoiled, just fast forward a little bit after the bell. Al Ewing teased the return of a character in Immortal Hulk number 40, assuring that this new version will offer a fresh take on the fan favorite monster, otherwise known as Walter Langowski, aka Sasquatch, who's played a substantial role in Al Ewing's current Immortal Hulk series. Though the character is currently dead, we all know that doesn't mean too much in the Immortal Hulk world, especially for gamma-powered people.
Or comics, period.
Ewing has teased the return of an all-new Sasquatch in the pages of issue number 40, hitting stands November 18th. He's similar in some respects, but very different in others. He's very much not the Sasquatch we know and love, Ewing teased in his exclusive interview with CBR. Ewing admitted that the upcoming edition of Sasquatch was an idea that came to him quite suddenly, leaving little time for series artist Joe Bennett to prepare the character's new appearance. But that fits with what we're doing with the character. Ewing explained he is both different and isn't.
Which I feel like something that I was alluding to earlier that played out, or that showed up in this week's issue of Immortal Hulk, that might play a part in that. Granted, it's 2 issues from now, so we don't know. But I feel like something we saw in this week's issue might have something to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect. Could be wrong. Probably am. Who knows? Next up, director John Ridley heads to Marvel for Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood. So yes, not only he's continuous work for DC, which I think that other side of the DC stuff is supposed to be coming out at some point soon. Now that I think about it, but regardless, John Ridley will head to Marvel Universe for Wolverine, I keep thinking of Red, White, and see, y'all know what I'm thinking about, that whole Captain America thing. Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood. Ridley will contribute a story to Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood #3 with Jorge Fornes on art duties. The story will see Wolverine traveling to Japan, where he will engage in a blood-soaked duel with his old foe, Silver Samurai, which we've just seen in the X-Books, and that's kind of... Sure, maybe it's the fight that we didn't get to see during the Wolverine, because we didn't necessarily see that fight go off. Maybe it has something to do with that, you know.
Right.
But who knows? Quote unquote here, I can think of no better way to kick off my writing relationship with Marvel Comics than by contributing to a truly fantastic anthology series centered around Wolverine. Really said in a statement. Equally exciting is having the story illustrated by George Fornes. I look forward to writing more stories set in the Marvel Universe and with their roster of iconic characters. We all know who John Ridley is at this point, so we don't necessarily have to say, but we also know what he's going to be doing in the pages of comics. Next.
All right, next up, the new Eternals ongoing series has been postponed for 2 months by Marvel. It was originally announced to debut November 11th, 2020. The series is now rescheduled for January 6th, 2021. A revised release date for the second issue, originally planned for December 2020, has not yet been announced. The publisher has not given a reason for this delay. However, this news comes as the Eternals movie was postponed to November 2021. It was originally scheduled to debut in November 2020 before the onset of the pandemic, but was pushed back first to February 2021 and now to November 2021. I wonder if this is really going to screw with the Marvel Legends figures that are supposed to come out.
That's your take from this?
Yeah, because some of them have leaked. That's the thing. So,
okay, sure, all right. Not the movie, not as okay, but anyway, I do love Newsarama's penchant for brevity. It is much appreciated. But yeah, who knows if it'll affect anything at all? Let's be honest. Heavy Metal launches Magma Comics imprint, announces first wave of titles. So Heavy Metal Entertainment has announced that it's launching a new creator-owned imprint called Magma Comics. The announcement of Magma Comics also includes a list of first wave of titles and the creators working on each series, with the imprint officially launching in spring 2021. And there's a list of titles that you can see if you're watching the video version of this. That you can see, and also a press release that you can read for yourself in the show notes. Next up, ahead of the company's New York City Comic Con. It's not New York City Comic Con. Come on, who is this? Allison Hambrick? Come on, Allison Hambrick over at CBR. It's New York Comic Con. See, I'm not the only one who does this.
I'm gonna speak to your editor. So. It was announced that Archie Comics.
It ain't just me. It's not just me. So anybody who's even been thinking that, it's not just me. There we go. Continue.
It's New York City Comic Con.
No. Just the commenting on the.
Oh, you know, there's stuff that hits me close to. That literally hits me close to home. So
I know.
It was announced that Archie Comics will be bringing original webcomics to Webtoon. The Webtoon platform and audience is perfectly suited for the Archie brand, and we're excited to partner with them to create new stories that expand and build on the tales we've been sharing with fans for almost 80 years. Alex Segura, co-president of Archie Comics, told Polygon. Webtoon was started 6 years ago, and since then it has become one of the fastest growing comic platforms. The key difference being between traditional comics and webcomics on Webtoon is that the webcomics are released as free weekly chapters that readers can comment on directly. This enables people to discover similar content and to engage directly with the creators. The platform has launched several highly popular titles, including Lore Olympus, which is being adapted into an animated series by the Jim Henson Company.
Who?
Well, we know who Jim Henson is. Yeah,
Oh, that part. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But Lore Olympus, really?
Yeah.
Who?
But also, man, God of High School is a really good anime that also came off of that also started off as a webtoon property. It's a pretty good one of those. I will say that. Anyway, Archie Comics opens up on 2020 challenges and preparations for 80th anniversary in 2021. So this may or may not be from that same article that last thing pulled from. 2020 has been a year no one expected, ain't that the truth, including Archie Comics. But they've rolled into with the proverbial punches, have made several announcements in the final months of 2020 as they prepare for Archie's 80th anniversary in 2021. 80 years old and still a teenager. How about that? Anyway, in the past 30 days, they have...
Yeah, listen to that, Batman fans. I was about to say, all hate mail can be directed to.
Lord, yeah. Anyway, in the past 30 days, they have made a deal for all their comics to debut day and date on Comixology. We've already talked about that on Comixology Unlimited. Partnered with Webtoon to begin original Archie webcomics on the platform. We just talked about that. And signed a deal with Spotify for a series of audio drama books, drama podcasts. We've already talked about that like last week. While this flagship title Archie remains on hiatus, it has already made plans. Please stop playing video. I hate you. Boy, I miss Newsarama the way it used to be. Anyway, it's already made plans to resume the publication of new Archie comics through the end of 2020 and into 2021. And the rest is an article. Is an interview with Alex Segura, the head of Archie Comics, about the big picture and what is coming in the 80th anniversary. You can read that at your leisure in the show notes. Once again, next
up, in another article written by our very own at TimDog98, IDW Publishing is celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Transformers computer animated series starring the Beast Wars with a new series in 2021. Launching February 2021, Transformers Beast Wars #1 is an oversized issue written by Eric Burnham of Transformers and Ghostbusters and illustrated by longtime Transformers artist Josh Burcham. The full press release can be found below. Listen, fans of Beast Wars, and I know you're out there, will probably want to pick this up.
Well, one, I'll be picking this up anyway because I'm apparently on the Transformers beat. One, I did not know Tim was actually even interested in Beast Wars or Transformers, but that's not necessarily saying that it has anything to do with him writing this or not. But the Transformers is another one of those where they've been going hot and heavy on a lot of books, and they're pretty much just ramping up. Not, crossovers aside, and those have been going on for a good minute now. I'm actually surprised that Beast Wars took this long for them to do, but also not surprised that this is happening now.
Well, it's happening in conjunction with the Netflix cartoon.
Yes. But also, again, even outside of that, I'm kind of surprised that it took them long to even pull this out the pocket. Because again, the ongoing series has been going on, and I just got caught up with that. And then there's Galaxy, and then there's like the whole crossovers, and then there's a couple of one shots. There's been a lot of Transformers, really, but that's not unlike their original run of IDW's original run of Transformers, because there was like 2 or 3 books at a time going on in that. So not a surprise. At least this time I can actually try to keep up with some of it, and some of it's actually pretty good. In fact, I think by the time the next time comes on, I'll update the Transformers thing. But regardless, let's get on to the last story of the night. Doctor Who, The Edge of Reality console game coming in 2021.
I was about to say, this is right up your alley, man.
Yes, we almost had bookending ends to the news cycle tonight, but it didn't work out that way. Whovians rejoice as a new Doctor Who game, The Edge of Reality, is coming to PC and current-gen consoles in 2021. Developer Maze Theory, in partnership with BBC Studios, has revealed Doctor Who: The Edge of Reality, a reimagined version of the 2019 VR title Doctor Who: The Edge of Time. The Edge of Reality will offer a quote-unquote new, compelling first-person adventure and features the 13th Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker. Cool. And Edition 13 will be joined by the 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant, which I wouldn't be surprised if they get him back for, because I know he's done a good bit of voice work. Also, as the story continues on from the events of The Edge of Time, new gameplay, monsters, and worlds are teased, including the Cybermen, Daleks, and Weeping Angels. The player will aid the Doctor by wielding the sonic screwdriver to defeat a universe-spanning threat. It's always a universe-spanning threat in the Doctor. Anyway, in a continuation of the story beats experience in The Edge of Time, which I never got to experience because apparently it's VR. It'll be out for current systems. Yeah, so basically, and it sounds like, whatever. Christopher Eccleston, aka Destro, will be returning as the Ninth Doctor as a part of a new audio series, which I'm pretty sure we've already talked about on the side of that. So yeah, this is cool. I'm also kind of glad that there was no, let's say, issues with anyone from anyone associated with the Doctor Who brand that said any stupid ass transphobic or racist remarks around the time that this was coming out, and therefore bearing this product like they potentially have done what someone else has done with another product of theirs recently. And that's all I'll say about that.
Okay.
And anyway, that is the end of the news for tonight. As we go into another ad read.
I was about to say, before we go into
okay.
our last ad read of the night, we have a little bit of toy corner on both
Oh,
sides.
right. I was gonna save that for after that,
corner.
but yeah.
So, I did in fact pick up this past last week. Actually, I picked up the Silver Centurion Iron Man armor from Walgreens, the Walgreens exclusive. I lucked out. I did not find this anywhere close to home. I did have to drive into upstate New York to find it, but I did get lucky and happened to be in the aisle as one of the Walgreens employees was stocking the toy section. It's pretty cool.
And yeah, wait, did you have something else? Yeah, this, as we see Agent 70 hold up the box with the front and back and stuff like that. I still want that Joker, and I'm on the hunt for it myself. Right. But my Walgreens did not net the same thing that he did.
Right. I think I already showed off the War Machine, if I'm not mistaken. No,
you did earlier, yeah, before the show.
But but on another show, I haven't.
Maybe you have. I don't remember honestly. But
just to show it.
Yeah,
just
flip
to
it up
show
again.
I did get the War Machine from. I did pluck this off of Amazon. I pre-ordered this, but the War Machine is out now. It's pretty cool. It's got a Rhodey head. It's old school 80s 90s Rhodey with a flat top. It's a really nice rendition of the comic book War Machine armor.
Indeed. And for myself, let me pop it over to me. Boop. I got where we talked about this last week I think on the show or was it last
Yes,
week?
we talked about our adventures online.
Yeah. But basically, move this out of the way and do a little. Oh Lord, I cannot do this. This is not going to happen. There we go.
Got it. That's it.
There we go. That works because I would have had to turn off my thing. So yes, as you can see if you're watching the video, the Storm and Thunderbird two pack. We Agent 70 and I both had some amusing issues coming across this Target exclusive figure online, which had to do with a bunch of refreshing of web pages. And
me asking, is this really real to Cal?
Exactly.
It was that mind-blowing.
Right.
It was that mind-blowing.
Or wait, was it MC Trouble or somebody else that said it's really real? 5 o'clock in the morning. I can't remember who did that song, but who's now passed. But
right. But I literally asked, "Is this really real?" in our chat.
So the
Because
short story was after last week's show, as we talked about it, we were kind of looking into it, and the next morning, and the next
yeah, it was
morning,
next morning.
it just said it was like, hey, it's out there out there on Target, and I just got mine, and I got it, and I got a confirmation email on it. So I went out there and tried to find it myself, and I found the listing. Well, I didn't find the listing at first because it was saying that it was not shippable, unlike as it was for him. So after a couple of refreshes, it ended up being shippable to me. But as I was putting it but somewhere between me putting it into the cart and actually paying for it with going to get my credit card, it was like, nope, this thing is no longer available. So try again later. Something to that effect. So and me and Stephanie was talking about this on the back channel after that, and I was like, that's kind of silly. What the hell? After we talked, and probably a little while, it wasn't that much longer later after we talked, I had to refresh a couple of the different. Matter of fact, because I was refreshing it during the whole time we were talking during that. It went back on and available. So I quickly, since I had my credit card and stuff on me, quickly went and put it in my cart and paid for it, and I got an email about it, and was like, this. We were still saying and updated Agent 70 about it, and we were still like, wait, is this actual real, or this was like Target screwed up some kind of way? Both could still apply, but
Hey, don't jinx me because mine is coming tomorrow.
I mean,
Apparently.
yeah, but you see, I got mine, so I'm pretty sure you're gonna
Yes.
get yours.
Yeah, Roddykat got his, and I am so happy that he got it, because Roddykat is not the Marvel Legend aficionado and collector that I am. So it's sometimes difficult to kind of cherry pick the ones that you really, really want. So I'm glad he got something he really, really wanted.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten that other that other storm that you have, but
Which one is that? The one with the mohawk?
actually, I'm trying to remember.
The black costume,
Yes.
Jim Lee. Oh god.
Or the
okay,
black
okay.
or the white one. Now that I think about it, but I think that one. Actually, I don't know. I have to check my orders for something. I might.
Yeah,
actually...
the black costume Jim Lee version, not that bad, not that hard to get. You can actually get that, I think, still on Amazon.
Well, yeah, I think I might have one coming on off of that point, but I don't know when, if that's the case. But yeah, going back to this two back, as you can see here, you got 90s era Storm, not more Storm.
70s, 80s.
Well, yeah, but what I'm getting to, 90s era animated series, this is more inclined to, for those who would know that particular version. This is kind of more aligned than that, but yes, you are right. It is definitely this. Well, actually, this is the black suit, so it wouldn't necessarily be the animated
I was about
series.
to say, this is like the bathing suit. No, I was about to say this is very much her first appearance. The
Right.
90s, the 90s Jim Lee style, the animated series. Like she had like the poofy sleeves.
Right.
So this is like very much her
epaulets
first
and, yeah.
appearance. Right. This is very much her first appearance. What's cool about it is that it comes with different heads. And unfortunately, they did our man Thunderbird dirty. He is not that impressive a figure, but we do get another member of the all different X-Men, from the team, because we do know that he bites the bullet in the next issue. So, or 2 issues later, that is, I think.
Right.
So he comes out in giant size. They see action in 95. I think he dies in 96.
Right.
So,
and yeah, therein starts the legacy of, Thunderbirds dying.
Exactly. But I am so jazzed to get the Storm tomorrow. The shelf behind me is going to get redone as soon as I get it. It's going to be, I'm going to have all of the giant size X-Men team except for Banshee. So waiting on Hasbro to redo Banshee so that we have a full giant size X-Men lineup.
Right.
As Roddykat is showing off the box art and rubbing it in, that I'm not going to have mine for another about 12 to 14 hours, maybe.
I'm trying to show it off because I know I got this virtual background that's messing with me, so and I don't want to turn it off. But regardless, that is that, and I'm happy to have it in my possession.
I'm happy.
We can safely say it's real.
Yeah, it's really real. So I will wrap the show with our last ad read of the night and keep it quick with help us keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through cspn.us. Do it today.
What's up, Danger, and good night, everybody. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for each and every one of you for coming out tonight. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles once again. We will be back next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. We'll see how the news cycle holds out. And like some of the stuff we actually ended up catching on the fly, but you know, sometimes that's how it goes in this game.
Right. Next week is actually going to be Baltimore Comic Con.
That is correct. So
we'll see if anything comes out during the early parts of that show.
Right, which is pretty much the last official, well, unofficially the last convention, quote unquote, convention of the year. Like, obviously, it's usually New York, but Baltimore has gotten a little bit more cachet in recent years. So, but stay tuned for that to see what happens from that. I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can also find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can also find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. Check out his Inktober offerings on Instagram, as well as any other musings he's got out there.
I'm up to date.
Yeah, totally up to date. Go check us out. Some good stuff. PCN_Dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Network on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com, and all those umbrella sites they're in. I'm assuming, but I don't know if he's still doing Vine. Oh, not Vine. Byte, BYTE. Under comic reviews, no vowels, but hey, you can go over there and check him out and see what he's got if you want to. Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, the Osiris of this ish. CB Cron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. Maybe one of us should try to wrest control of that for a little bit. I don't know, but you can go check it out there, and you know, all that kind of good stuff. What's that say? Comic Cron, The Click Nation on Twitter also. That's DKLIQNATION. Also theclicknation.com, where some of the stuff should have been going up, but that's a whole nother situation. But also, lastly but not leastly, and of course, Comic Book Resources, where he's over there writing his face off, as we have seen by the various articles that we have put up here tonight.
Very, very busy this week.
Yeah. And I will go ahead and say this, even though I don't necessarily have to. We you know, I don't necessarily look at who's writing the stuff a lot of times when I'm pulling the news. So it wasn't like I was pulling favoritism. It just so happened that Tim did a lot of stuff that I pulled. But hey, you know what? We're proud of our dude for doing this thing. So glad to give that man some clicks. And you should too. Go check out the stuff. That aside. You can also go to find this here program on Coastal Podcast Network, that's CSPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast original place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can find us here every Thursday, pretty much every Thursday, because, you know, being things where they are, we don't have a movie protocol to speak of.
I haven't thought of that in a long time. Actually, movie protocol.
Yeah, I still.
We might have holiday protocol. We'll see.
We will see.
That's coming up.
We are definitely into the holiday. Yeah, we are definitely into the holiday season, and we'll see how that works out for us coming through. In fact, I know Halloween is on this year. Halloween fell on a weekend. Shout out to Ghetto Boys, but well, yeah, November. Thanksgiving is pretty much the one that is the one
that always falls on a show day.
Because it's on a Thursday when we air, so we'll see how that works out. But regardless, you can catch us here every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. live on the Click Nation's YouTube channel. Or you could also find us on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles, where we go live on both through the magic of the internet.
through the magic of the internet.
Exactly. But if you don't catch us there or catch the archives of both of those in both of those places, you can catch us after the fact on the Coastal Podcast Network on the audio phone when it comes out on, let's say Sunday at this point. Looks like it's,
Yep.
at least by Sunday, but we will definitely try to be, we will try to keep putting that out there when it does come out. But check around Saturday and Sunday for us. And with that, folks, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One.
Wakanda forever!